What's up, guys? Today we are doing a Tyranid tier list, going from HQs all the way down to, what is it?
Lord of War. Lord
of War last, and we will be giving you our expert opinion on what to use and what not to use. Stay tuned. First off is the Broodlord.
All right, we're gonna take this Codex just right away in order. No jumping around. You'll see it as we go. But first in the Codex is the Broodlord. So Broodlord, I think, is gonna be a high S tier model.
S tier, really?
They've got a couple things going for them. They're cheap. They're only 120 points or something like that, 115. They have the Lookout Sword Roll, so you can hide them in Gaunts or Gene Stealers, and they're not going to get targeted. They hit pretty hard. They'd have, what do we got here? 6 attacks, hitting on 2s. They reroll their failed wound rolls because of monster Scything Talons. So, and then it's D3 damage, or on a roll of a 6, it's an unnecessary AP -6, flat 3 damage.
Is it really AP -6?
It's AP -6. I don't know what in the game can have an roll of 8. I guess a Terminator in cover.
Oh yeah, okay. It's a very specific
level but
you need, yeah.
It'll slice through it, or a Land Raider in cover.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah. Seems weird.
So
yeah.
they got a 5 of them slate. They're not the tankiest of things. They can die pretty quick with just a 4-up, 5-up. But they provide synapse. You can do psychic powers with them, and they're cheap, which for a tier in HQ, a good cheap HQ is always important because you want to put your points into monsters elsewhere in the army.
True.
So for now, I think we keep them S tier. We might move them around and see how we go. All right, so next is the Hive Tyrant, and I believe in here I broke them up into a Foot Tyrant and into a Flying Hive Tyrant.
They do serve pretty different functions, so that would make sense for me at least.
So I think the Foot Tyrant is more of a B tier thing.
Okay.
They're cheap, especially in the new FAQ. They got oh no, they didn't get a point decrease. Only the Flying Hive Tyrant got a point decrease. But, so I'm gonna slide into B tier for now. They're cheap for the most part, for what they are. Some of their pros, they can do 2 psychic powers, so that's always great as Tyranids. You can give them a variety of weapons, although their shooting weapons on foot are pretty limited. You give them the Venom Cannon, but it's D3 shots with Blast, so it's pretty swingy. You can, if you want to tech into it, give them a relic that makes it always 3 shots, always maximum shots, but
is that where you want to use
it's not really where you want to use the relic, no.
Right.
So, and then they still move decent. I believe it's 9 inches on foot, which is still fast by any means. But you're not getting as much mobility as you are with the Flying Hive Tyrant.
If I can say something about the Foot Tyrant, I think it falls into a similar. It has obviously it's a very similar model to the Swarm Lord without a lot of the extreme pros that the Swarm Lord gets, which is why I think I would agree with B tier, is that it does have a lot of benefits. It's not as expensive as the Swarm Lord.
Yeah.
It's less of a target, frankly, than the Swarm Lord, but it still can die.
You can spam them. If you want to play Foot Tyrants, you could easily put a couple of them in the list.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's really the way you want to go, but
probably not a competitive list, but
and you can make them cheap. Give them just 2 pairs of Scything Talons.
True.
Give them Adrenal Glands and Toxin Sacs, and that's about it.
Do you think that would be more advantageous than like a squad of a couple Carnifexes though?
God.
What is the comparison as
so,
the Tyranid player?
Couple Carnifexes are they're okay, as we'll get to the Carnifexes later. They're okay. I think they're overpriced, or they just need a durability buff.
Okay.
Problem with if you play a Foot Tyrant as a combat, it's not I'm gonna run you up the board and stab you and kill you. It's more of a counter threat. So if your opponent charges in with like Blade Guard or Aggressors or something, he can come in with his damage 3 weapons and slice them up.
Yeah.
And the reason he's only good at infantry is because he's only strength 6, which is a huge problem I have with a lot of the Tyranid monsters, is that they're just under-strengthed.
Can he gain strength through other means?
You can give him the adaptive physiology, which is +1 strength, +1 damage, -1 AP. So now his Siding Talons are AP -4, they're strength 7, they're 4 damage.
That is significant.
It's good.
Yeah, it's significant.
And I would do that, but I would do it on a Flying Hive Tyrant where you've got much more mobility. You can use the stratagem of hit and run. So if you finish off something in combat, instead of just consolidating your 3 inches, you can take an entire movement phase. So instead of a 3-inch consolidate, you can move 16 inches, hop back into cover behind line of sight blocking terrain, and it goes a long way.
Wow.
Now, am I blind? Did I miss the Flying Hive Tyrant in here? I don't see him. I must have missed him.
I guess for now, maybe we'll just combine them, in which case...
I would put him A tier. He's probably going to be low A tier, but I think a Flying Hive Tyrant is higher than a Foot Tyrant, but still in the A tier.
And you would give them the same weapons?
Same loadout. Well,
same loadout.
The Flying Tyrant, you can have a little more option with the shooting.
Yeah.
You can run the DACA version where he's got 24 shots, strength 6.
What is that? Sixth edition loadout.
That's 6th edition loadout where that came into option. They do have the new option, which is strength 7, AP -1, but it's only 12 shots. I tried it against Space Marines using the pathogenic slime to make them damage 2, thinking that would be pretty good. It
might not be enough shots.
It wasn't. It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough shots, and at only AP -1, you're only killing like maybe 3 or 4 intercessors, which is a lot. But for your big Flyrant, there's other things that could do that damage.
Sure.
Now we're gonna move on to Swarmlord, my favorite.
The big boy.
The big boy. I don't know where I want him right now. I think he's A or S. I'm gonna put him above here for now.
That's very interesting. As the opponent of the Tyranids, usually I find that kind of surprising.
You think he should be higher?
Yeah.
I think
he's so. Actually, why don't you start?
Well, he's good. He's really good. He hits like a truck in close combat. Not a lot of things can really withstand him, except he runs into the issue where he's only got the 12 wounds.
Yes.
Newer models like Gazgul is the one I look to the most. They have that rule where he can only take 4 wounds a phase.
You've mentioned that a few times.
Oh, if Swarmlord got that in the next Codex, that would be amazing. I don't care if he goes up by like 30 points.
Sure.
Having it so he doesn't have to die in 1 turn if he pokes his toe out of cover is insane.
What about 50 points, just for instance?
50 points would put him at like 320 points. That's a bit much.
With the Gazgul rule, though, you think?
Well, it depends. Is it 3 wounds a phase or 4 wounds a phase? If it's 3 wounds a phase, yes. If it's 4 wounds, maybe not. It would guarantee he gets up there.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
Okay.
I would pay at least 20 to 30 points to get, if he's 300 points and he has that rule, yes. Sure. As long as he keeps the rest of his stuff. So he's still a Psyker, so he can still cast 2 powers. It'd be cool to see that get bumped up, or maybe he gets a bonus to his casting just because he's such a beast. But
or a unique power of some kind that's just his.
Two different psychic disciplines for Tyranids is a whole nother video, but I would love to see something like that too. Hive Commander, amazing. Everyone knows about Hive Commander. All of the little shenanigans you can pull off with allowing.
We should explain it though, because that, at least for me, as the Tyranids are the army I play against the most, and that single rule is the scariest thing in the entire Codex, in my opinion.
Hive Commander is in each of your shooting phases. You can pick 1 friendly Hive Fleet unit within 6 inches of the Swarmlord, and that unit may move and advance if you wish, as if it were the movement phase instead of shooting. That's key, instead of shooting. So really, a big block of warriors, some Carnifex, any big combat threat, your Flying Hive Tyrant.
Himself,
that's often what I do on the first couple turns. is just using it for himself to get that mobility. Maybe he goes up in cover or goes out of cover, casts a couple powers, goes back into cover.
True.
Using it on Zoanthropes. So Zoanthropes, you often maybe want to put them, even though they have 24-inch range smite, you want to put them forward so they can get the right target. They want to target that right thing.
Right.
So you can move them forward and they can advance. If you train them back, so one's still within 6 inches of Swarmlord, move them back.
Right.
And that keeps them out of maybe a charge range threat because they're going to get shot no matter what. But
it keeps them out of anything less than 24 inches range.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's great. His tail attack, whatever. It's fine. I've maybe killed a Marine with it once or twice, but his Bone Sabers are awesome. He's got the 3-up invuln. I'd love if he kept this in the next edition. They're getting rid of 3-up invulns, but his is very niche where it's only in close combat he gets it.
I would say it makes sense too.
He's a combat master.
Yeah, he's like the combat lord of the Tyranids, essentially.
Yeah.
And let's maybe just give a brief. Why is he not in S tier for you?
So the only thing that's holding me back is still the fact that he can get one-shotted by a couple las cannons or melta-guns. Nowadays, multi-melters are everywhere, especially in Space Marines and Sisters.
Yep.
You've got Retributor squads, which can take 4 multi-meltas. That's 8 shots. You only need 3 of those, really, to kill a Swarmlord.
True.
4 if you're being kind, but he just dies too fast. You cannot rely on 4-up invulns to survive against that sort of oppressive firepower. So that is my only reason why I feel like he should be an A tier. I could see him going into an S tier towards the end of S tier, towards the back.
Sure.
But
now that you explain it, though, I do agree with high A tier, though, because he's such a powerful presence in melee that if you don't shoot
deal with him,
like it's kind of like you have to do something about him, you know?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to be hurting yourself in the future.
Some armies may not care about him, just how powerful he is.
Probably should.
But nowadays, it seems like 3 wounds, doing damage 3 is so big, and that's one thing Tyranids can still do, and especially him.
Especially him.
So
Swarmlord, high A tier.
High A tier for now.
Okay.
Now we're going to a much less favorited option, the lowly Tyranid Prime. I despise these things. I despise them a lot, and most of the Tyranid community does as well.
I don't think he's used one for 5 years.
Oh, they're so. I try every once in a while when I try and spam warriors. I'll use them because you have to, but they're overpriced.
How much are they, by the way?
Right 80, 85 points base, 90 points base. They're up there.
Yikes.
They've got 6 wounds, great. They got strength 5, toughness 5, fine, great. Hit on 2s, bliss skill 3s, plus, great.
Also great, yeah.
All great. All of his attacks, his stat line, you look at this thing like, this should be a great creature. A great leader. But he's so many points, and he's got no invuln save. Unlike most characters these days have some, even if it's a 5-up, I don't know why they'd give it to him. But 2 Thunderhammer shots, he's dead. He can't do anything about it.
True.
I guess he gets a 6-up save against them now, but
it's a 6-up save.
The main thing that makes him even more of a problem is that you have to pay points on top of his already high to get weapons, and the weapons you upgrade him with aren't good. I mean, Siding Talons don't do anything because there's no AP or anything. Bone Swords are AP -2, but they're still only damage 1. So he's got 4 attacks. If you give him 2 sets of Bone Swords, you make him a Swarmlord Junior, essentially. He'll have 5 attacks with strength 5, AP -2, 1 damage. He could kill 1 or 2 intercessors.
Right.
And that's it.
So what does he actually...
His bonuses?
What does he give you? Yeah.
The key thing and why anyone would take this is Alpha Warrior, which gives +1 to hit for warriors. So your warriors now hit on 3s for shooting and 2s for close combat. 2s for close combat is pretty good.
That's good, but I wonder, he's like 80 or 85 points. I wonder if that's worth that many points, or if it'd be better to just have more warriors. Like,
Yeah.
more warrior. With the we'll get to warriors, but with the adaptive physiology you have often given them, it would seem to me like it'd be better to just have more warriors.
You could get 3 or 4 more warriors for the price of the prime.
And that's 12 wounds?
Yeah.
12 more wounds.
9, 12 wounds.
And he has 6. So that's double the wounds.
I would never take one. The only reason I would take one is if you are going full warrior spam, then you got to take 2 of them or 3 for fun, right? For fun.
Yeah.
That's about it. That's about it.
That's it. It's
because
just for fun.
If you took one as a character, a synapse bubble that could, hide from with Lookout Sir, you would just take a Broodlord. It's just you pay an extra 20 points. Does more damage. He's got an invuln save. He's faster. Psychic. Yeah. He needs something.
So I'm guessing
better close combat weapons and maybe less points.
I'm guessing Tyranid Prime is down in the...
I'm going to put this boy in the C tier.
Oh, really?
He'll be low C tier.
Okay.
No, you're right. He's D tier.
I feel like,
he's pretty bad.
The benefits are almost non-existent compared to other things you can take.
Every unit, we'll go through this, every unit in this codex has pros, they have cons, but he just has too many cons to even go near the pros.
Right, especially when you compare him to, like you said, the Broodlord.
Yeah.
Who's pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah. All right, next, another favorite, the Tervagon.
Also kind of complicated, though.
Complicated. In this edition. I love it, I hate it. It's just not, I don't hate it. It's just, in a way, it's not useful. So it's
what function does it serve?
So Psychic. Mm-hmm. It's great for when you have the Psychic secondaries. You need a Psyker to do those low warp charge casts.
Yes, true.
Perfect for it. If you stick a Tervagon in the middle of the board, they have to deal with it. It's not actually that hard to, or it's difficult to deal with it. Toughness 8, 14 wounds.
It's a big reason I think it's at least somewhat viable is those two stats.
They're 210 points though.
Are they really?
Yeah, they're expensive.
I didn't know that.
They can't do a ton of close combat. Although I did have one do some damage to a Dreadnought recently, which is huge because it is D6 damage. It's swingy with their Scything Talons.
Sure.
But they hit on 4s, 3 attacks. But you would take one of these if you're bringing mass Termagants, which is always fun to bring 30, 60, if you really want 90 Termagants.
Right. Similar to the idea with the Tyranid Prime where if you just want to take one thing, except in this case I would say mass Termagants is actually more viable than mass Warriors?
They both have their place. If you bring mass Warriors, you can make 2 of them pretty durable with the adaptive physiologies. Right. And they will hold their own, and the primes will help them actually be, instead of just a brick wall, but like a spiky brick wall.
Sure. True.
You take the Tervagon for the spawn Termagants rule. So you can respawn 10 Fleshbore, the basic Termagants, a turn into a unit. They can't go over their limit, and they can't respawn Devourers. Right. So you lose a Fleshbore, then you put one back in. You can, which is great. She also allows them to reroll hit rolls of 1. Mm-hmm. So if you have a big squad of 30 of them backed up by one of these, they're hitting on 4s, re-rolling 1s, and then because Termagants have the built-in rule, if there's 20 or more of them in a unit, they get to re-roll 1s to wound.
Right.
It actually makes Termagant shooting like scary.
Right.
I mean, they're scarier than bolt guns in some cases.
Yeah.
But she's still no invuln save. You can fix it if you want to. Give her the 5-up invuln save. I wish that all Tyranid Psychers had a 5-up invuln built in. But
it would be worth it for a few more points, like 15 or 20 more points.
I think it needs a points drop to begin with. So maybe if it went up 5 points and gave it the invuln, nothing else changed, sure. But it struggles. I would put the Tervagon, it's very situational. I would put it a high C, low B tier.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with B.
Yeah, I would guess B as well.
We'll see when we get in it. I might stick it to the top of C.
Sure.
We want to keep most of these units
in the middle.
At B tier.
Yeah.
Some A, some C, a few in S, and only a few are going to go in the D tier.
Yep, for sure.
But so that's what we'll go there.
Okay.
Now for one that almost everybody brings in every game is the Neurothrope.
Yep.
Neurothrope, I'll throw it up there right now because everybody knows where that thing belongs, and that is up here with S tier. I would put it ahead of the Broodlord. Absolutely.
I would agree with that.
This thing is only 95 points. It's got a weird thing where it can manifest 2 powers, but it only knows 1 on top of Smite. So if you give it there's a relic that you take almost every time with them, where it's an extra cast and it's +1/2 cast, where you don't know a 3rd psychic power to cast. So
it's very interesting.
I hope they change it so it can learn an extra one, so you can actually make use of that. But it still can reroll ones in the psychic phase, and with that relic, it's +1/2 cast.
So it's basically another extremely powerful psyker.
Very powerful psyker.
I would say, I mean, it's obvious, but one of the biggest things is that it is such a good support for Zonethropes.
Yep.
Which are one of your best units.
Yeah, right now, Zonethropes, I think, they're one of the better things. They're pricey, but they can really punch home while they still have 3-up invulns. They're tanky, too.
Spoiler alert, they will be in the same tier, probably?
They might be in A tier. They might be in S tier. We'll find out.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Wait and see.
But... yeah, you take one of these if you're taking Zonethropes, because the Zonethropes get to reroll ones to cast, and then the Zonethropes also, well, actually I should say, Spirit Leech lets him either revive himself or Zonethrope. I guess he can't bring one back from the dead, but he can heal wounds on them, which is big. A 3-up invuln save on this, again, not only does it have Lookout Sir, but if you actually leave it exposed, it's not just going to die.
Right.
It's only got 1 attack, so don't count on it doing anything.
The headbutt.
The headbutt. It's claws and teeth, but it's the headbutt. We all know.
Yeah.
But just an auto include, I think, in any Tyranid army.
I'd say that's fair.
You can get your most crucial powers off, like Catalyst, to just almost a guaranteed off.
And also, just a side note, it's difficult to choose, even though he's such a menace and so scary, it's difficult to choose fighting or going for him over like a Swarm Lord, because you have to deal with other things first.
Yeah, he's tucked in there in the back of your army where you know you have to kill him, but you can't.
You really can't.
You can't unless you've done something wrong. But if they're getting to your Neurothropes, then you've probably made a mistake, or you're doing something bold.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. All right, and the last one. My baby, the old One Eye.
Really cool as far as lore goes, or you know,
Story.
In theory he could be really cool.
In theory, he's awesome.
Yeah.
He struggles where a lot of these Tyranid monsters will struggle. That he has no invuln save. He's relatively slow for a close combat monster.
Toughness 7, not 8.
If he was toughness 8, that would be insane. Yeah. He's still good. He's still fun, but he's 230 points.
Oof.
He's up there.
Pretty close to the Swarm Lord.
Yeah, right? he's closer to a Tervagon than he is a Swarm Lord, but he is the second. Well, depending on how you upgrade your Hive Tyrant, he's the second highest. But you compare him to a flying Hive Tyrant, and he can't fly. So he's not as fast. Doesn't have an invuln save, can't cast psychic powers, but yet you get the same point cost out of him. He's not Synapse. He still has the rule.
Yeah.
No.
Is that an old rule?
That's an old rule.
What is that?
That's the thing that all Tyranids when they're out Synapse. He used to have the rule where he would help out Carnifexes with leadership.
Right.
That seems to be gone. I didn't even realize that. You know how it...
Me neither.
Yeah, but so he can add +1 hit. So this is where the old One Eye and the Carnifexes you'll see got pretty nerfed, is with the stacking modifiers thing going to a cap at 1.
Yes.
So he used to get, his rule is on a roll of 6+. It used to be, it still is, that he could get extra attacks when he fights in the fight phase. So his built-in rule is +1 to hit for friendly Carnifexes. So that would be, his 6+, now it's on 5+, he gets an extra attack.
Right.
And then he still has, if he charges, he gets +1 to hit. So then that's +2 to hit. And then you could do another thing where you can take Prey Sight, so it's a +3 to hit. but now it's capped at 1. So normally you could be generating, if you're using Scything Talons.
In last edition.
In last edition, you'd be generating attacks like he was a Blender.
Blender, yeah. That's a good way to put it.
But now it's just not quite there because
not quite worth it, I would say, for the points value.
He's a little overpriced.
Usually.
He will kill. He will get into. If he gets into combat, he will kill what he touches, most likely.
I mean, is that right? Strength 14?
Yeah, strength. Right. Well, strength 14 if you use the Monstrous Crushing Claws, which actually that is where the modifier thing is okay because now you can have +2, -1. You're still hitting at +1 with Crushing Claws, so you can get around that.
So there's a slight benefit to.
There's a benefit, in a way. It's yeah, I love them, but I don't like them enough to bring them all the time. But I will still bring them out.
He takes a big place in our hearts. You know?
He does.
He's a good guy.
He's been there. He's been through a lot.
Yeah, he has.
But I would throw Old One Eye. Where are you, my boy? Nope, Carnifex. There he is in the proper color scheme. I would throw him in a low B tier. Yeah. Mid to low B tier right now.
Probably expect him to descend the
Yeah, as
the
we
B
fill
tier.
it in, he'll start going his way down.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
I believe that's all the HQs.
That is all the HQs.
Cool.
We'll get on to the troop choices. We're moving on now to the troop section.
Possibly the most important section?
Probably for the Tyranids.
Yeah.
So, start off, first one, Tyranid Warriors. These things, we're going to put them right now, they are S tier right now.
Wow.
I think they are.
Think so?
Well,
that's interesting.
A couple things went right for the Tyranid Warriors recently. They've got adaptive physiologies, so you can play them two ways. The first way you can play them is ignoring AP -1 and 2.
Yeah.
Pretty good. I
would say very good in 9th edition.
Yeah. There is a second way to play them. Normally, if you do that, you could take them as Leviathan, so they also have a 6-up Feel No Pain to that, just to add to that durability.
Right.
Second option is you'd play them as Jormungandr.
I don't even know what that is.
It's a high fleet that not a ton of people played for a while, but there's another adaptive physiology where if you instead of getting 1 for your cover save, you get +2 to your cover save. Jormungandr's thing is as long as you didn't advance, so you only did a normal move, you count as being in cover.
Wow.
So now your 4-up goes to a 2-up.
Whoa, okay.
It's pretty good.
So essentially they are like you said when we were talking about the Tyranid Prime, they're kind of the brick wall.
Yeah.
In general?
They are awesome for sitting on center objectives, or you can just take a squad of 3 of them, because a minimum squad of 3, there's 17 points a model, so is that 51 points for...
It's a very good deal.
51 points for 9 wounds just to sit in a corner on an objective.
Right.
And if you want to fight them in close combat, even the 3 of them, they can put out 12 attacks. They're not doing anything with those attacks, so they're strength 4, no AP.
Chip damage.
But they're cheap, and you can just take them and sit them. Or you can take the big block strategy, and they can run up the board and just sit on objective. And unless your opponent's got a damage 3, AP -3 close combat threat, which is becoming somewhat more common now.
I wouldn't say common yet, though.
No, people are they've got things.
Yeah.
Then they're doing pretty good. There is one more thing. They have a stratagem now in Psychic Awakening, which is they reduce damage by 1.
Huge.
So
huge deal.
Plasma guns, damage 1, not damage 2. All your thunder hammers, damage 2, not dropping damage 3 weapons to damage 2 is huge, because then it turns down the efficiency of the weapon.
If you do the math on it, it makes them survive at least another turn or 2 longer than they would without that.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you take them as Leviathan, you got 6-up save on top of that reducing damage. It can really be a thorn in someone's side.
It's horribly annoying to fight against, for the record, yeah.
But and yeah, they're great because they got points decrease in the new recent FAQ in January. They went down to 17 points a model from 20.
It's a really good deal.
It's really good.
Yeah. If I can add, forgive me if I'm wrong, but they don't need synapse, or they give synapse?
They are synapse. Yep, you're right.
Which is incredible for a troops choice within the Tyranid Codex, because being able to give synapse is a huge deal for them.
And they're troops, so their objective secured.
Right.
They don't care about morale. So if they're up against a non-objective secured model on the objective, if you somehow kill all 8 of them in one turn with like Terminators or something, that one being alive is not going to run away, and he's going to hold the objective over all of them.
Yeah, and he keeps the lesser, I guess you could say,
the
lesser beings of the Tyranids in check, which is good for that points value.
If you need something to babysit Exocrines and Hive Guard, a unit of 3 of them is good for that too.
Funny that they babysit Exocrines. Yeah, it's interesting.
So yeah, I think they're S tier, absolutely.
It seems fair to me.
I love that they're using now, because any Tyranid player who's been collecting for, I'm going on year 10 now.
That's crazy.
We have warriors just stockpiled everywhere because they've been so bad for so long. But they were included in every set.
Right.
Here's some Tyranid warriors, here's some more. Huh. It's like GW had a huge stockpile, like, okay, maybe now we'll make them good.
Yeah, nice that they finally did.
Finally.
Yeah.
All right.
So we went over everything with them, adaptive physiology. Their weapons?
Weapons, okay, so yeah, those were a lot of the pros because S tier.
Yes.
Cons are the weapons. So their shooting weapons are on paper good, but when you give them to a Tyranid warrior, they're kind of garbage. You give them the spine fists, which are basically the pistols.
Right.
No one does that. I don't think.
I've never seen that.
No,
yeah.
I don't think anyone does it. You got Devourers, which are the same thing the Termagants can have.
Yep.
Normally, you upgrade to Death Spitters, which are like an old heavy bolter.
Yeah.
Those are good. The Venom Cannons and the Barb Stranglers they're okay. They're D3, D6 damage. They have blast, so that's fine, but they only hit on 4s. So unless you have a prime with them to babysit, they only hit on 4s. You only have, and they're expensive. A Death Spitter is 5 points, so you're almost increasing by 33% the price of your warrior.
Yeah, that's true.
So I would not take them for shooting. Maybe if you have a squad camping in the back, give them a Venom Cannon, because it's still an anti-tank weapon, 36-inch range.
Extra shots.
You can do some chip damage over the course of the game. Close combat, they perform much better on their own. But again, they lack from low AP or low damage output.
Yes. So essentially what you're looking at is they've achieved S tier status by just being
survivable.
So difficult to kill.
So difficult to kill. And so universally good. I'm trying to think what the word is there.
Efficient?
Efficient,
yeah,
yes.
Efficient at what they do.
I love them. But I hope, the main thing I hope that changes, I doubt we'll see it, but I'd love to see Sighting Talons go to AP -1. It would be kind of a mind-blowing change if they did that, but I like it.
It'd be an enormous change, even though it doesn't seem like that much, but it would be.
What I would like to see much more realistic is increase the Bone Sword damage to 2. Make them AP -2, 2 damage. Then they can actually chop through things.
Brains.
In this new meta of everything having an extra wound, when they can't, they're not updated to that level. Everything's just twice as durable against them.
Yeah.
So that's the downside to them. They're not going to kill a whole lot, but you don't take them for their killing power. You take them for their durability.
Right. It's a long part of this video, but I think it's necessary to expand on that.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Next, we'll go on to what used to be the shining star of the Tyranid troop choice, the Gene Stealers. I'm going to put Gene Stealers.
Where would you put them?
I might put them at high. Can I give them to high B tier right now? So, high B tier, low A tier. The biggest issue with the Gene Stealers is that they are now 15 points a model.
Compare that to the Warriors we just talked about so much.
17 points a model.
So for 2 points difference, you're gaining two more wounds.
2 extra wounds.
Which is the biggest thing.
You're not as fast.
The Warriors aren't as fast.
The Warriors aren't as fast. Right. But sure, you could take a block of them. But if you take just one block of 20, you can't hide a block of 20. They're going to get gunned down. They can't survive anything really. Cultists will gun them down.
It's true.
You could take them and put them in strategic reserve and bring them on the side, and then you could theoretically have Swarmlord, which if you're taking Gene Stealers,
I was just gonna say that.
you take Kraken Gene Stealers and you take Swarmlord to help them out, to slingshot them. So you could take 2 squads, slingshot one squad across the board, deep or strategic reserve another squad, and slingshot them up.
Sure. But essentially, the issue is, although they are
good,
they're basically the opposite of warriors in some ways. Like they are pure offense.
They are pure offense.
But the issue is that I don't think their offense is worth as much as the warriors' defense if we're comparing them.
Yeah, I'd say so. It's just 15. So you bring they're 15 points model. Yeah. You bring 20 of them. Oh boy, was that 3? That's 300 points.
Yeah,
300 points. You bring 2 of them.
It's an expensive squad.
It's a lot of your army that if you have a bad turn 1, it could just be gone.
And you must, it's not that you must, but you should use the Swarmlord to slingshot them, or you're not going to get them up there as good. You still got ways to do it, but I don't know. I think if they go down 1 point would be amazing. I mean, that's 20 more points.
It's 20 more points.
At 20.
You bring it out, it's 40, 60 more points. You can. That's a whole chunk, a whole other unit you could even bring in.
Yeah, true.
Maybe I'm being a little harsh on them and putting them in. Maybe they'll be top B tier. We'll see. I can't see them going any lower in B tier. I could see them. Maybe I'm gonna leave them in.
I agree with it.
The B tier.
Yeah, I agree with it.
There's a trick that I have figured out with the extended care. We won't get into it. I'll say that for another video with some strategies. But
there are some fun things you can do with them to make them work differently. But I would still agree that they're kind of in the middle of the pack because they don't do one thing as good as other things in the Tyranid Codex.
And with, I guess, a big thing, maybe when new game modes come out, we're waiting for Maelstrom to come out in its full form.
That's true.
But right now, the 9th edition missions are all about durability, and they're not really about offense. So that's, again, when your key thing is offense, but it's like small arms offense, everyone's bringing like tanky they're just, I don't know.
I would agree with that.
All right. These next ones might go a little bit quicker. Termagants. I love Termagants.
The bread and butter.
They are great. Here's this horrible image. I'm going to slide them right up here.
Above the Hive Tyrant.
Above the Hive Tyrant.
Yeah.
So they got a great boost with the FAQ in January. Their Devourers went down by 2 points a model. So now instead of 10 points for a Devil Gaunt, it's only 7 points for
We should probably explain what a Devil Gaunt is for...
Devil Gaunt, yeah, I guess if people haven't been playing Tyranids for a while, Devil Gaunt is the Devourer Termagant.
So they start with Flesh Borers.
Yep.
And you upgrade them to
Devourers. So you get an extra 2 or 3 points. You get an extra 2 shots at an extra 6 inch of range.
Which might not sound that crazy, but when you have 30 of them...
If you bring all 30 with Devourers, that's crazy. I would cap it out at 15.
Yeah.
If they're running up the board, I would cap it at 15 Devourers. I like to do 10 Devourers, 20 Flesh Borers. I find it's a nice niche spot.
But I mean, even that is how many extra shots?
It's an extra 20 shots.
An extra 20 shots of the same gun is pretty significant.
The other ways you can do them, there's 2 other transport methods. You could, again, strategic reserve them on the side. I'm not a fan of doing it that way, but you can use the pods. They're not great, but you use the pods, drop in 20 of them with Devourers. That's 60 shots.
Right.
Or you can use the Trigon if you want. Bring them in, 60 shots. And then you can, on top of that, stratagems, we have single-minded annihilation. Most people use them on the Hive Guard, but to have an infantry shoot again, you get that unit to shoot twice. That's 120 shots you could be pumping out.
It's a lot more shots than almost anything else can really get.
And they're strength 4, which is great. I mean, for the Termagant themselves are strength 3, but the guns are strength 4, which, I mean, you're only going to be shooting intercessors or small arms. Dark Eldar now, I mean, shooting their warriors, you're going to wound on 3s.
Which we'll get into, but that is the reason I think Termagants are so much more valuable than Hormagaunts.
Yeah, they both have their niches. Termagants, you can take them in like small 10-man squads to sit on objectives in the back, but maybe 1 or 2 a game. But if you want to mass Gaunts, 5-point Gaunts, I think they're pretty good for A tier.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right, next we have
Hormagaunts.
Where are you? Oh, there he is. He's a single boy. I'm going to put him right behind Termagants right now. I'll go there.
Okay.
I think so.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll put him behind Termagants, behind the Flying Hive Tyrant.
They certainly have their uses, but again, the strength 3.
Unless you are teching into a mass swarm army where you are bringing, 90 Hormagaunts, 90 Termagants, 90 Gargoyles.
Right.
When you are purposely playing that swarm, I don't even know if you'd use Gargoyles at that point. But the Hormagaunts are nice because they're faster. With an 8-inch movement, and you can advance them. They can get on those middle objectives on the first turn.
Yeah.
That's what you use them for. They're good for objective grabbing. They're only strength 3, so they're wounding everything on 5s. Sure, they can roll 1s to hit, but they're cheap. Right. They're cheap, and for their use, they're great.
Sure. And so low A tier.
Low A tier, yeah.
Yeah. That seems fair.
Next, a Tyranid special you would see in almost any tournament list are the humble Ripper Swarms.
S tier.
S tier, absolutely S tier.
Yeah.
Deep strike in, or if you really want, you can keep them on the board. I don't know why you would, but deep strike them in. They're objective secured. They're swarms, so they hurt with swarms, so they can't do all the actions necessarily.
Right.
But the deep striking objective secured, small footprint, both base size and height. True. With the height size, you can actually hide them behind walls, and you can't see them.
Almost any wall.
Any wall.
Yeah.
Any wall, any rock, you can hide them behind. It's like you can't see them. Normally, you just assume you can, but they're so small. They're just a nuisance. They're easy to kill. But having 2 squads of them to just deep strike give you some potential objective stealing, engage in all fronts.
I would say, I mean, obviously, like he was saying, the main thing is if you're playing an elite army like I have much of the time, Rippers are one of the biggest nuisances because if you simply don't have enough firepower to put some shots into them, they will destroy you. Not literally, but with objectives. Because you just can't. You can't give them the attention they demand.
That's a good point. Elite armies really struggle with these tiny squads popping in.
It's really tough.
If you're playing guard or something, sure, they'll blast them off the board right away.
Not as big of a deal,
but the more elite armies like Grey Knights, potentially Necrons,
certain Marine armies,
Marines, Custodes, all of those elite armies are going to struggle to have shots to put into them.
It's just when there's bigger threats in front of you, it's very difficult to make the choice to shoot the Rippers.
Yeah, they are. But fun little guys. All right, now we're going to move on to the elite choices.
An interesting one for the elites for the start.
An interesting one, the Tyrant Guard, the humble Tyrant Guard. They've never been a top tier unit. They've never been, they're not horrible. They're not horrible. I've used them recently just to see how they do.
Against Space Marines?
Against Space Marines. Okay. There's a little bit of cheese you can do with them to make them useful. The big thing, the only reason you take them is because they are essentially, a unit of 3 is 9 extra wounds for your Hive Tyrant.
Right. And how many points are they?
That's a good question. I believe they are about 30 or so points apiece.
Okay.
Let me check right here. So the Tyrant Guard are 40 points apiece. So you're paying 120 points. So almost half of your Hive Tyrant cost to give them 9 extra wounds. So like your Swarm Lord, you could look at it as your Swarm Lord Hive Tyrant combo is 390 points. But
it's an interesting thing to think about if it's worth it or not in any given battle.
It goes up to 390 points for a 21 wound Swarm Lord, in a way.
Which is frightening. Don't get me wrong, it's scary. Yeah.
So The one way you can make these guys work well is you give them Catalyst, because the way their shield wall rule works, that's tough to say, is every damage that the Hive Tyrant takes, you roll on a 2+, and that damage goes onto them in addition, or in the form of a mortal wound. So if the Swarmlord fails his 3-up invuln save, then it goes to, if it's a damage 3 weapon, then the Hive Tyrant, you roll a d6 for each of them. On a 2+, it's that many mortal wounds. Okay. If you give them Feel No Pain, then they have a 5+ chance to shrug off the mortal wound on top of that.
Right.
There's no way to have 2 units have Feel No Pain in matched play. In open play, you can cast the same Psychic Power multiple times.
Oh.
So you could have stacking Feel No Pains potentially without, but that kind of...
It's not very often.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't really do that.
Most people.
But they're fine. They're okay. I would put them in a C tier. I find that, obviously he's the Tyranid player, and I find that you don't usually feel that it's worth 120 points can get you
a lot of points,
a lot of other things.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good chunk of warriors right there.
Which can probably add more benefit if you're playing this 9th edition that we are playing right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, so I don't know what I would do to make them better.
I mean, points decrease would be the only...
Maybe a little... You can't go too low to the point where it's too good.
It could be overpowered, yeah.
But yeah. All right. So that's a simple one. That's a simple one.
Yeah.
Hive Guard. These fun boys. I'm going to put the Hive Guard in a low S tier. Right? I might even...
What? Really?
Okay, so the only reason I'm thinking of putting them into A tier...
Shocking.
...is because GW is introducing a lot more reduced damage by 1 into the game with 9th edition. A lot of Death Guard, because that's Death Guard, Disgusting Resilient for Death Guard is now reduced damage by 1.
Oh man.
All the Dreadnoughts and Space Marines reduce damage by 1. And when their guns are only D3 damage, they are only a 33% chance to do 2 wounds per shot.
Right, I think it's important to focus on the math there. You have a 66% chance to get a 1 or a 2 on your damage, meaning if the Hive Guard are shooting something that has a reduced damage by 1, there's a 66% chance to only get 1 damage.
One wound.
When it could be 3, but
on like a Rhino
or
or
a regular thing.
Or
does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right there. They're 45 points a model. They still ignore line of sight. There's a weird rule where they ignore line of sight, but they don't ignore terrain. So if you're shooting through a forest, technically rules as written, you're still at -1 to hit.
That's weird.
Which is really annoying because
strange,
thematically it doesn't make sense at all.
Fluff-wise, it makes
no
sense.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But rules is written, so sometimes you get into weird situations. Yep. I had a game in the tournament where I was forced to sit. It was either sit in a crater where I was somewhat exposed or sit behind this forest where I'd be hitting at -1 the entire game.
Wow, that's very weird.
It was, I didn't let the board set up, not great, but...
Sure. What can you do though? Sometimes
that's the way it is.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that would do to them. Either you make them damage 3, but that gets really scary.
Super. I mean, I'm already...
Or another option is you make them either cheaper or give them an extra shot. Give them 3 shots and make them damage 2.
Right. And I think it's important to also mention, you said it with the Termagants, that what makes them...
Oh, yes.
What makes them be able to sit in low S tier, which is extremely good, is that you can shoot them twice for how many command points?
2 command points, shoot the entire unit a second time.
Meaning, if you're not shooting something with reduced damage, which, most things aren't, although it is becoming more common.
Becoming more common, yeah.
It is, but against most things, you can shoot... How many shots is it?
2 shots a model. So
2 shots a model, so usually it'd be 6 shots. If you use 2 command points, it can be 12 shots at D3 damage, strength 8.
Yep, strength 8, AP -2.
It's a lot of potential, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and you're only counting for 3 of them. You bring a squad of 6. It's 12 shots or 20.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And you really don't have to worry about the whole blast or coherency rules for having more than 5 of them. I think the only thing that's going to scare you are Thunderfire cannons and Wyverns from Imperial Guard because they have blast ignoring line of sight.
Right.
They're not all that durable. They have 3 wounds. They only have a 4-up save.
5 toughness.
Toughness 5 is great. But yeah, I'll put them at low S tier.
Okay.
They're pretty on par because the ignoring line of sight, if you don't go up against a Dreadnought, they can be, and like
it's devastating.
If an opponent leaves a character in the open, they think, oh, I'm fine. No, you're not. Just shoot over and get them. But
I could see high A tier, but I also see low S tier.
Yeah. All right, and now we're on to this. Ooh, this might be the last S tier model.
Wow, really?
The Lictor. Yeah. I will put him. I'm going to put him right there at the number 2 spot.
My goodness. All right.
The reason is he is 37 points. He is 1 point more than a unit of 3 Rippers. Oof. He can deep strike for free. He can do deploy scramblers when he shows up. He can get you engaged in all fronts.
I think it's important, like you said, it's important to compare it to the Rippers because they serve a similar function, but the Lictor is better in every...
Not in every case because they don't have objectives secured.
Oh, yeah.
They are less wounds. They're less wounds in a way, less survival than a unit of 3 Rippers.
But as far as objectives.
But for objectives, yes, because they can do actions.
Right.
Deploy scramblers. If you know of a unit that's better at deploy scramblers than a Lictor, let us know because I don't think there's a single one.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think you're right.
Taking 3, you really only need to do 2 Lictors, but if you want to take 3 Lictors, 1 for each section, it's a guaranteed 10 points a game.
Right.
It's unless you're playing guard or something huge that can zone out a Lictor from your entire deployment zone or their entire deployment zone.
Yeah.
You can get you your points.
Probably 95% of games, it's a guaranteed 10 points.
10 points. Plus, you double up with engage in all fronts. So they're doing deploy scramblers in a quadrant you're not in.
Oof.
So you're getting, they're the king of the secondaries for Tyranids right now.
Which is a enormous part of the game.
Yeah. So, yeah. And then on the other note, we have their character version, the Death Leaper.
Yeah.
Is a D tier.
Tough.
He's horrible.
It's tough.
He's a Lictor with 2 extra wounds.
Sure.
And a few extra character hunting abilities.
How many points is he? Do you know?
He's 65 points, so he's almost not quite twice the price of a Lictor.
Sure.
But he has all of the negatives that a Lictor has in bonuses. Where he is a character, so he can't do deploy scramblers.
Oh, right.
And that's it. And he's twice as many points.
Right.
Good luck killing something in close combat with him.
Right.
You could maybe kill a lieutenant.
The reason you'd take him is because he is technically stronger at combat, but that's not what the Lictor is doing right now. Yeah, that's not what they're doing in 9th edition. Yeah.
I mean,
he has really fun rules.
He's fun.
They're super funny. I could say funny too.
Yeah.
Like they have funny names.
He also, they also lost out on the modifiers. They used to, -2 to hit them if they were in cover. You can't do that anymore. So now they get extra saves, but they're only a 5-up save. So maybe you could get them to a 3-up save, but there's so much AP thrown around that with 6 wounds is okay.
I mean, the amount of AP -1 is.
Yeah, he's not gonna last much.
No.
But
it's a similar thing to the Tyranid Prime, where they're the character version of their
unit.
Their unit.
He's a character.
But because they're characters, it actually makes them.
It can hurt them in
much less viable.
Yeah, the best thing you're gonna get. I mean, you could kill a Necron. What's your middle level HQ that boosts the warriors around?
Like a Cryptek?
Cryptex. Yeah, they could go Cryptek hunting.
Sure.
Lieutenant hunting. The new one that came in Dominus. The Royal Warden.
Oh yeah. Which is a
Again,
very good unit, so taking
those
that out
little
would be...
characters, he
Yeah.
can go around hunting them, which, you know, you're trading points off pretty even. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't include it.
It might not be worth it, though. For
I
the
would put
Tyranid
2
player.
lictors in for the
Yes.
Death Leaper instead.
Yeah.
All right.
Poor Death Leaper.
Or Death
He's in
Leaper.
D2.
I'd love something more. All right. Zone Thropes.
The boys.
The Brain Boys. The big Brain Boys. I'm going to put them at the top of A tier.
Okay.
So, in the recent FAQ, they did go up to 50 points a model.
They did?
They're
Wow.
expensive. But their damage potential paired with a Neurothrope is insane.
Right.
So there's two plays that people do with the Zone Thropes, and that comes down to how many you bring. Some people say 5, some people say 6. I am a fan of 6 because I don't think Blast is all that big of a deal that some people are worried about.
And there's also a huge benefit to 6, right?
Yeah, so if you have 6 of them in a unit, then your smite is D3 plus 3 mortal wounds at 24-inch range.
And let me just let that sink in. D3
Plus 3.
plus 3 just from doing a psychic power.
Just from going off on a 5.
It's a lot of damage.
It's a lot of damage. And then you stick them, because you should, stick them with a Neurothrope. So now they're rerolling their 1s on the psychic test.
It's really annoying.
You only really fail on a double 2. Because if you'll double 1, unless it's not your first smite, then it can get a little dicey, but you should make this your first smite every game.
I've never thought about that. Only a double 2.
Yeah, and a super smite, D6 plus 3 mortal wounds. Ooh, I had a game in a tournament against Knights, and I rolled a super smite.
Wow.
9 mortal wounds off on the Knight right away.
I mean, it's a massive chunk of
Massive chunk.
HP. Yeah.
So not only that, but they have fly, so they don't care about all the terrain nerfs to their movement.
Yep.
They can't fall back from combat anymore, because if you fall back from combat, you can't cast your psychic powers.
Right.
So that hurts them a little bit.
I'd say the other thing that makes them so incredibly good is the increasingly rare 3-up invuln save.
I will bet a lot of money that they don't have this in the next Codex. It's gonna go to a 4-up save.
Do you think they'll change it out for something else, or?
They'll get cheaper. I would hope they get cheaper.
Okay.
Or they might change up the way their Warp Blast works altogether. Right now, being just an extra smite is fine, but what it used to be was you had 2 modes. You had your Blast mode, and you had your Lance mode.
Yeah.
They can do that. They can make it so they're a bit more of a, instead of being this durable block of points where 3-up invuln, they are hard to shift.
It's very difficult.
They're very hard to shift, and that's cool. It's fun. I sometimes feel bad for my opponent when you're rolling hot on the invulns.
It can be really demoralizing.
It can be
because if you just keep hitting your 3s, it feels like you'll never ever kill them.
You hit them with the Stormbolt, you hit them with the las cannon. It doesn't matter to them.
Very true.
It feels bad. So sometimes. But if they could do something else where it's like, I don't know, they're not as tough. Maybe they only have a 4, maybe they only have a 5-up. But their powers are, maybe there's a zone thrope table where it's like you can cast this power, and it does D6 mortal wounds if it's a vehicle, or D3.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something like that would be great.
There's a lot of potential routes they could go with them.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say what will end
They
up
might just keep
happening.
them the same too. I wouldn't be surprised by that either.
No, if anything's going to keep its 3-up invuln in the upcoming codexes, I think.
Not 3-up. No.
You don't think?
I don't think so at all. I think it'll go to a 3-up. Is just too.
It's too strong.
It's too strong. I don't think it really shows what
they want from the game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They want to tone down the invulns a lot. So I'd say 4-up for sure. But
Cool with me?
yeah. But
A+ tier unit.
yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
All right. Now we have a Brain Boy, the Maliceptor. I don't think I've ever used one against you. Maybe I've proxied one in, but this is one of the only Tyranid models I don't own yet, just because they're expensive right now, and it's hard to get product from GW, so I've struggled to get them. They aren't great, except they have one little trick up their sleeve with Psychic Awakening. I will probably throw them into a B tier right now in between these two.
What is the trick again?
So the trick is, it's a 2 command point stratagem.
Yeah.
And they put out this bubble of -1 strength to all incoming shots.
Right. The
So
bubble is 6?
6-inch bubble. And it's a big base, so it covers a good distance. But means your multi-meltas are strength 7, which in the meta is pretty good.
Yeah. Especially if you're running T8 stuff.
A lot of
Toughness 8 things.
not a ton of toughness 8 in the Codex, but if you are pairing one of these guys with like Tyrannofexes, not that they're, or Exocrines.
Well, I suppose it also helps toughness 7 stuff a lot because it makes it wound on 4s if you're shooting them with strength 8
toughness 7 wounds on 4s. You got
Okay.
toughness. You got all your strength 4 guns. All your gaunts, they're wounding them on 4s now instead of 3s.
Wow.
It's 2 command points though, and you can't hide this thing, so people know it. Now you can hide it behind obscuring terrain,
Right.
but there's only so much of that in a table theoretically.
And are you getting the full potential out of that if you're keeping it in the back?
He's 170 points, so
not bad.
he's not. It's not that bad. He can actually do damage in close combat with 3 attacks at D6 damage apiece and AP -3.
Starts at strength 7, then degrades.
It degrades, so I wouldn't count on him in close combat. He also has a 4-pin vuln save, which is why I think
That's nice.
I feel like it'll go because it's called Psychic Barrier. I feel like everyone should have that. It's the same rule the Hive Tyrant and Swarmlord have. So I feel like that's what a lot of more things are gonna get.
You're probably right. Yeah.
But
Right.
overall, B tier for me. They've got their one niche that Psychic Awakening gave them. Other than that, they're
It's
just
not too expensive, but it also might not be totally worth what it does cost.
very average.
Sure.
All right, Venomthropes. These have seen a new lease of life in 9th edition, I believe.
They've always had their niche, though.
They've had their niche
Yeah.
of always giving some sort of cover, or in 8th and 9th edition, it's -1 to hit. The problem in 8th edition was you couldn't hide them because there was no like true line of sight blocking terrain and things like that, at least in the competitive scene.
And they're not characters.
They're not characters, so if someone saw them, they're easy to kill with a 5-up save and 3 wounds apiece at T4.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even need to use a last cannon. You can use a lesser gun. And,
Bolters will do it.
Right.
But now in 9th edition, with all of the ignoring or the line of sight blocking, what's the fancy term for that? Whatever, the line of sight blocking terrain, like buildings and stuff, you can get your Zoanthrope or your Venomthropes, we'll get there.
Many thropes.
Many thropes. You can get your Venomthropes up there, put them behind this line of sight blocking terrain, and just stick that bubble out over your entire army of -1 to hit.
Yeah.
And they can't do anything about them because you can't see them.
Right.
I think these more people, as they start to realize how good they are, because they're 33 points a model. You have to take them, at least 3 of them in a unit.
You do.
Yeah, you do. It used to be only 1, but now it's still 3.
So it's 99 points for a unit of 3.
For a unit of 3 to give your entire arm.
It's not bad, actually.
It's not bad.
Yeah. It's not bad.
It heavily relies on the table you're playing.
Yes.
Because if there's no line of sight blocking terrain in the middle, then it hampers what they can do.
But you should be playing with something in the middle.
You should be playing with some line of sight blocking terrain in the middle, or kind of offset from the middle.
So that being said, where would you place them?
I am going to place them in a higher B, not behind the Gene Steal. I'll put them there.
Okay.
It'll be high. I still think they're average. Well, I feel
like they might have a case for being better than Gene Stealers. Maybe?
They might.
I mean,
pairing them with Gene Stealers is pretty good.
That is good, yeah. That's true.
Yeah, and because their bubble is okay. So there's some other things we should talk about them.
Sure.
They can only give the bubble to monsters if there are 3 or more of them in a unit. You can take a unit of 6, and if you take a unit of 6, it's a 9-inch bubble. It basically covers your deployment zone.
For 198 points?
Yeah.
198.
Almost 200 points. You can give your entire... But, I don't know. I don't have that many. I've never thought about it, but
In a bigger battle,
oh, yeah, you're playing a bigger
pretty much-
game.
pretty
You
much
could do that.
necessary. Yeah.
I would argue for their high B tier. I haven't played enough with them in 9th edition to say maybe low A tier, but
I would say possibly, yeah.
should we slide them up there?
I mean, they are such a nuisance. I think you could definitely make that argument for low A
We
tier.
might slide them up into low A
Definitely
tier.
the last as of right now in A tier, but yeah.
Again, I didn't use these at all. Not one game in 8th edition did I use these Vanthropes because I thought
No.
they're garbage. And now in 9th edition, I'm starting to use them more and more.
Yeah.
I think they've got a place in a lot of armies.
Yeah. And I won't keep saying it, but a big thing with the Tyranid army is the choices you have to make of what you want to shoot
Yeah.
at the beginning of the battle. And again, it's tough to know if you should shoot the Venom Thropes to get rid of the huge cover save, or -1. sorry.
-1 to hit, yep.
-1, or if you want to just put your shots right into a monster. So it creates a lot of choices for your opponents to make,
Yeah.
you know?
We'll put them there. Bottom A tier right
agree
now.
with that.
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, we got 2 more elites left.
Okay.
We've got the Humble Pyrovore.
The third humble unit.
The third, oh gosh,
I've been
yeah.
counting.
Oh, you've been counting. All right, a Pyrovore, a walking heavy flamer, essentially.
How many points? 50?
Oh, no, they're 28 points a model.
Oh, is it really?
They're really cheap.
Oh.
But they're just only a heavy flamer. They have a little bit of close combat potential.
What is the
Strength
potential?
5, AP -3, 1 damage, with 2 attacks each. Not great.
Not great, but not terrible.
I think there is only there are 3 ways to play these guys.
Okay.
None of them are
Good.
great.
Okay.
You could take 3 of them or 6 of them. You can only take them in units up to 3. Yeah, but in a pod you can put
I was gonna say
2 groups of 3 of them in a pod, drop them in. There are 6 heavy flamers just ready to shoot.
you can fit 2 squads of 3 in
You
a
can
pod.
fit 2 squads of 3 in a pod.
Oh. Huh.
Actually,
okay.
might even like 3 squads of 3. I don't think, because they're just infantry. So you might able to take 3 squads of 3 in a pod.
Might be excessive.
But then you run into the issue of the footprint. Can you actually deploy 3 squads of 3?
And if you're deep striking them, you probably are putting them behind your enemy.
Yes.
How much space is there?
They're heavy flamer. Well, it used to be. It's 10 inches, so now they can shoot out of reserve.
It's a good range.
Except it used to be good back when other Space Marine flamers were only like 8 inches or 6 inches.
Right.
Now
it's common.
Now that everyone has 12-inch flamers, except
Yeah.
for Xenos,
Yeah.
a 10-inch flamer is nothing fancy.
That's interesting. Yeah, true.
Another way you could take them is you could take a unit of 3 and strategic reserve them and plop them in on the side, and they can flame a unit on the edge.
Yeah.
It's something. They're not expensive, so you're paying 80 points almost for 3 of them.
So pretty much I mean, I guess it could be good against even non-horde armies, right? Like,
Yeah.
you could use it.
Heavy flamers are good. D6 damage, they're swingy. The last way,
Yeah.
you take a single one, you sit it in the back of your deployment zone on an objective, and he doesn't
Yeah.
move all game.
But
I
in
don't
that
know.
case, we'll get to that.
I don't know. Maybe, but yeah. So I would put them where we grabbed them yet.
Between those 3, by the way, just to me, it sounds like strategic reserve without a pod might be the most optimal.
That
way
would probably
to
be
use
the
them.
way to do them.
It's cheap.
It's cheap.
It's cheap, and you're getting extra shots. So probably like that.
Yeah,
I agree with your placement.
I'd put them in a lower C tier. They're not awful. They have a place, but
But Tyrant Guard have more of a place too.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, and the last boy, we have the tongue man himself,
The Tongue Man.
the Harsfex, the man of many tongues. He's fun. He's
fun.
He's not competitive, but he is fun.
Let's start with what's the fun part of him?
Just the sheer number of attacks you get with all those tongues.
Yeah.
So his Ravenous Maw, you get D3 attacks for every attack. So when he fights, if you use all of them as the Ravenous Maw, it's 4D3 attacks.
I didn't even know that. That's
So
interesting.
a lot of attacks. And then he's got his Rampacious Hunger is every time he kills a model with his tongues, he gets to make an attack with his shoveling claws. He's just on overdrive. You know, his tongues are going crazy. He's shoveling people in.
And the shoveling claws are strength times 2, which if he's at full wounds is strength 14.
Yep.
AP minus 3, D6 damage.
So his ideal target is Imperial Guard. I'm convinced this thing was designed to go after Imperial Guard.
Definitely.
You charge into a tank and an infantry squad. You use the 4d3 attacks. You know, kill 5 guardsmen, and then
you do
first.
That first.
Yep.
Right.
And you get 5 shoveling claw attacks, and then you wipe out a tank.
Wow. That's actually stronger than I thought it was.
Here's where it's not so great. He hits on 4s.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay.
And if he's really bracketed, he hits on 5s.
Huh.
So
that's interesting.
It's not great.
Right.
It's a lot of tax. There are some ways to work around it.
Would you ever consider putting, what's it called, in place of your warlord trait?
Oh, the adaptive physiology?
Would that be anything there?
So
or?
you could do the 5-up invuln save one to make him extra tanky. Or you could give him the one that's an extra strength, an extra AP, an extra damage.
Okay.
You only get to pick one weapon. So you put it on the Ravenous Moss. So now they're strength 8. They are AP minus 2, D3 plus 1 damage. Now you're talking about killing Marines with that stuff.
True.
Instead of just guardsmen.
If you really want to run one, that might be the way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either do you want to sling them up with the Swarm Lord, go all out offensive, or do you want to play tanky?
Right.
He's slow. He's only 7-inch movement.
Oh, interesting.
A lot of Tyranids, the big combat boys, are 8 or 9 inches. He's only 7.
Sure.
He also, he's toughness 8 with 13 wounds, so that part is still great.
Nice.
That's great.
Yeah, that's very helpful.
It's tough. 13 wounds is an interesting one. Not many models are 13 wounds.
No.
But it basically gives him an extra wound before he gets bracketed.
Right, it's true.
Down to 6 instead of 7.
Right.
Then the last way you could play with him is you could take our custom high fleets. You can give Prey Sight, I believe it is, which is +1 to hit when you charge. So you got to tech into them.
If you're going to use it, I feel like that might be what you got to do.
You might. We'll continue with the Haruspex here.
We're back.
So stratagems you can use with him. There is the one that you use on all your monsters, which is you get to reroll all your failed wound rolls.
Yep.
Perfect, because it's all the time. And then there is one where it is, he does. We totally forgot about this. He does have a stratagem, which is +1 to hit. It's out of Psychic Awakening. It works for Rippers and Haruspexes.
It's so specific.
It's a weird combo.
And it's 1 command point?
1 command point,
Good.
+1 to hit with him.
Well,
that helps.
Yeah,
But
it's worth it.
He's
if you're using him.
You need 1 command point per tongue to make him effective, pretty much. So he's fun. I love him. He's fun. He's just not quite competitive enough.
And it's a great model. I love his face.
He is so cool.
His face is wild.
All right.
What would you give him? I would guess.
Oh yes.
I would guess C tier.
I would put him in a high C tier.
Yeah, because he can actually do things.
But you have to tech too many things into him to make it like.
Definitely.
And then the problem is, if you have two of them, well, then you only have the command points for 1. So.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd put him high C tier. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Sure.
Shall we move on to the fast attack?
Sure.
All right. Or do you want a quick break?
Let's do a quick break.
Quick break.
Quick break.
Fast attack time. We have the Winged Gaunt, the Gargoyles. I'm not too keen on Gargoyles right now.
I haven't seen him use them much.
No, they have their places.
Sure.
They're a faster Hormigaunt, but they lose objective secured.
In what situations in 9th edition do you think you could benefit from them over Termagants?
The speed.
Obviously, they're faster.
They're faster.
Right.
The speed is the only thing. They can't take Devourers.
Yeah, right.
The only way I would consider using them, they're 7 points a model, whereas a Termagant is 5, a Hormigaunt is 6, a Gargoyle is 7. I would only use them as like 2 minimum squads of 10. Hide them behind line of sight blocking if you can. Get them onto the objectives right away.
Sure, just force your opponent
Just
to shoot them.
Force your opponent. They have to deal with them, otherwise you could get max primary.
True.
For 140 points, it might be okay.
In a, I'd say like 2,000 minimum. You could run that.
In a 2,000 point. If you're playing anything smaller, maybe just one
Might
squad.
it might not be worth the 2 squads.
But they don't have objectives secured. They're not as good at shooting. Well, okay, they're just as good at shooting as a Termagant, but they don't have the bonus. Oh no, they do. They have hail living, so they can reel ones to hit if you bring a big squad of them.
But the problem is with a bigger squad,
they're hard to hide.
It multiplies more points as well.
It multiplies the points,
Yeah.
and it's a huge footprint to hide because you can't pack them in
Yes.
like you can Termagants.
Termagants are like you can make it pretty tight.
Oh yeah, you get 30 of them in a small little bubble,
Yeah.
but
Gargoyles have a massive for their
30
size.
gargoyles will take up like a third of your deployment zone.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's all I think there is to really say about the gargoyles.
Yeah, it's not too much else.
I would put them in a low C tier,
Because they are
mid C tier.
their speed is a good function, but
I would much rather have Hormagaunts.
Yep.
And just bank on the fact that you can get a fast enough run or advance in there to get on the
don't they
objective.
advance 6 automatically for Hormagaunts?
No, it's hold on.
I believe I read that earlier.
Am I?
Bounding leap.
Yes. No,
Oh,
that's when
consolidate.
Consolidate. Okay, I was gonna say, have I been playing that wrong? That is no, but if you play Hormagaunts, you probably are playing Kraken,
Where
so
you
it's
get 3.
3d6 take the highest.
Right.
So, yeah, that's
Generally use regular guns.
yeah. All right, Ravners. These are some interesting boys.
Yes, it's a very unique.
On paper, if you're just looking at the data sheet, I love them. I love them. I love them.
Super fun fluff as well. for the record.
They're fast. You have the option to deep strike them, so you can take min squads and just pop them up for, again, objectives, kind of like the Lictor.
Yeah.
They are infantry. Yeah, they're still infantry. They used to be beasts, but they changed them to infantry.
Which is good.
Yes, very great. You can give them the same guns as the warriors, the Death Spitters, Devourers, Spine Fists, but they hit on 4s.
They're kind of like warriors. They're like faster warriors?
They're faster
Right.
warriors that don't have the durability.
Right.
And they have a little bit more offensive power with a couple extra attacks,
Oh, yeah.
or an extra attack. You
Right,
can get
yeah,
it to
that's
more.
true.
If you take them, I like to take them. When I do use them,
If you take them.
if I
Yeah,
take them,
true.
I like to take big squads of 9, and then you just give them Scything Talons, so they're as cheap as possible, and you just pair them with the Swarm Lord, and they're basically a giant distraction Carnifex. You sling them up the board 24 inches, and they are in your opponent's deployment zone. They could charge in if they got some weaker unit exposed, or you just leave them there and prevent your opponent from moving out turn 1.
You literally have to completely wipe them out if you want to.
Well, yeah, because
past them.
the shooting phase is after the movement
Yep.
phase. You can't move. You can't get within an inch of them. So
Yeah, right.
so you can do them that way.
Huh.
5 attacks apiece if you take dual Scything Talons, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4. They're strength 4, so wounding on whatever.
The negative being their save is worse by 1.
5 up save.
5 up save.
Um,
The points difference?
the point. This is what
points
this is
difference
what
is big.
kills me. They are 22 or 21 points a model.
So 4
4 or 5
more
points more expensive than a warrior. You lose objective secured. You
Yeah.
lose your save.
You gain speed
You gain speed.
and 1 attack.
If they were the same price as warriors,
Yeah.
ooh, I would definitely see taking a squad of them.
Which they, I mean, possibly could end up being that because
They
there's
could.
trade-offs to both, and yeah, it could end up being like that.
I would love to see them go down in points.
Yeah,
You could give them Rending Claws. You'd lose out on an attack. You'd only have 4 attacks apiece instead of 5.
yeah.
But you do gain some AP, which is always nice. If you want, you can play again. I wouldn't do this in match play, but you can tech into Scything Talons and take the custom high fleet where all of your basic Scything Talons are AP -1,
Yeah.
which again, you're teching into it.
Yeah,
So
it's a matter of how competitive you want to be.
yeah,
You know?
we're looking at this more of a competitive play.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't do it. I would take the Raveners, as much as I do love them, and put them in a...
In theory, I really like them too.
I would put them in a... Oh, man. A low B, high C, before or after the Harspecs? What do you think?
After.
After Harspecs.
Harspecs has a little more potential, I think.
Yeah, he
against
can.
most armies.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But...
Cool unit, though.
Cool unit. Just
we like them.
I even forgot, you can take Metabolic Overdrive on, or you can use Metabolic Overdrive, which is the one command point to double move an infantry unit.
Oh, yeah.
You do have to roll a die for each of them, and on a 1, they take them 1 to 1. So if you're bringing a block of 9, you actually could roll a couple 1s and maybe kill one.
But essentially, he's saying you don't have to even use the Swarm Lord.
Don't use Swarm Lord.
To catapult them
24 inches in your opponent's deployment zone.
Yeah.
And they can't charge or shoot if they do that. So if you make them cheap, they just sit there.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right. Which can be useful.
Yeah,
so.
I think so.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They
All
get the meh.
They get a meh.
Yeah. And I'm guessing following the trend.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The Red Terror is the character Ravener. And he's going to go in D tier.
He's going D tier.
And you think he's lower than the Tyranid Prime and Death Leaper?
Actually, I think he's higher than Death Leaper.
Okay.
I think he's just a little higher than Death
Why is
Leaper.
that?
Well, he's got one special rule that, because the Death Leaper has the same target as the...
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's a couple reasons. One, he boosts Tyranid Raveners just like,
like the other two.
Like the others. But the Death Leaper doesn't boost Lictors. And you don't take them in a sense where it would make sense for him to boost Lictors.
Sure. So he's closer to the Tyranid Prime.
He's closer to Tyranid Prime than he is to the Death Leaper. Mm-hmm. You can't upgrade this guy at all.
Yep.
But he does have the fun Swallow Whole ability, which is you get 5 attacks, and if 4 of them hit, then you can trade in those attacks for basically a roll-off against your opponent.
Is it 5 attack? Oh, yeah. It's high intel.
4 plus, yep. So then what you do is you roll a d6, and if the result is equal to or higher than the wounds characteristic of your opponent, he's gone. Just gone.
So let's maybe give an example. If you're fighting a Space Marine
captains, I guess, because captains have at minimum 5 wounds. Some of them are rocking 6 or 7 wounds now.
Librarian?
A Librarian. That's a great option. Yeah. So you go up against a Librarian, you hit him, you roll your 4 hits. You're hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s. So you're going to get them all. You're going to get your attacks unless you're just god-awful rolling. Then he shouldn't be alive in the first place. Sure. And then it goes, a Librarian has 4 saves. Primaris Librarian has 5 wounds. So you've got a 50-50 to a 33% chance that he just kills him.
And no save. There's no saving him. The rule states that
it's just slain.
It's slain. The unit is slain. So
that's it.
Yeah, I would definitely agree he's above Death Leaper because he can just swallow a Space Marine.
And he is the same points, I am pretty sure, as a Death Leaper. If not, he might be a little bit cheaper by like 5 points. He's fast.
He is fast.
So, if you don't know what to do with like 50 points of your army or 55 points of your army, you could stick one in there. You can
basically, again, it's fun.
It's fun.
It's a fun guy.
I wouldn't take it to a tournament.
Nope.
But
never.
Stick him in with your Hormagaunts or something, and if there's a striking chance to hit at a key character, why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Enjoy yourself a little.
Yeah.
You deserve it.
All right. Now we have the Muclid Spore.
Those are fast attack?
They're technically fast attack. So Red Terror is technically an elite, but they kept them with the Raveners.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Muclid Spore, that is the chunky spore mine here.
The large spore mine.
Yeah.
Big boy.
He's going to go in the D tier, I think, right now.
It's a very unique unit.
Yeah, he has some play, because he's a 3. He's toughness 3, unlike the spore mines. He has 3 wounds, so he doesn't just instantly die.
When a sorry to jump ahead, but when a biovore shoots, are they shooting them or?
No, they are shooting spore mines.
Okay, never mind.
The fortification shoots these guys, so we'll come back to these a little bit later.
Sure.
But they can shoot these guys out.
There's another unit that will launch these things. So these things aren't generally a unit you take by itself. It's a product of another unit.
So he's got you can take them and deep strike them in. But they do have a rule where they have to set up 12 inches away, not 9 inches away.
I didn't even know that.
It's dumb. But when they explode, they can do no mortal wounds, D3 mortal wounds, or D6 mortal wounds.
So essentially, you deep strike them or shoot them, and they need to get close to a unit.
They got to charge a unit and blow up.
And they can get close, charge, and then they explode for that many possible wounds.
Yeah, so they're like 30 points for something. So
I mean, you take it if you have nothing else to
do. Yeah, I wouldn't do it, but they're meh.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Now, however, their smaller brothers, the spore mines, I would put in C tier.
Yeah, more of a function.
I would put them. I would even argue that they're better than biovores and than Tyrant Guard for the sole purpose of move blocking.
Oh, yeah.
So, spore you can deep strike them, but again, they're a byproduct of other units more so.
Yes.
But this little model can prevent you, if you set them up right, from your opponent moving out, and it's really, they're just a nuisance. You have to shoot them. You could potentially just get stuck. There's a lot of stories you can find online of people lobbing these at knights before knights had the rule where they can move over enemy models. And this group of spore mines just box in a knight and they corner the map. Sure. So for that reason, I'm going to put them in C tier. Their move blocking would be fun. It's hard to pull off unless you are really spamming the biovores.
Right.
But as a lone unit, we'll put them in a C tier.
Yeah, they have a bit of a function compared to the.
But they died to a stiff breeze at toughness 1 wound, and a 7+ save.
You can just tip them over and
yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
All right, now we're on to the meat and potatoes. The exocrine, but the heavy support. We are starting with the exocrine.
One of the most potentially important units in the whole codex.
If you're playing competitive.
Yes, if you're playing competitive. And there's a certain high fleet that you use with it, right?
Yeah, you use the Chronos, which allows you to stand still. If you stand still, which is part of exocrine already, you get to reroll ones to hit.
Sure. So let's go over what it does.
I'm going to put him before we even start. Sure. He's up there in S tier.
Higher than Rippers?
Higher than Rippers, just for sheer damage output.
The most shooting damage the Tyranids have.
Yeah.
Right.
Most consistent for sure.
Yep.
So first off, he's a chunky boy at toughness 8 and 12 wounds.
Yep.
So he's not necessarily going anywhere. He's got a 3-up armor save. You're most likely going to want to use the adaptive physiologies of giving him a 5-up invuln, Dermix Symbiosis. 5-up invuln, doubling his wounds for bracket's sake to keep him going as long as possible. His weapon, besides his powerful limbs, is the bioplasmic cannon, which is heavy 6, strength 7, AP -3, 2 damage. It's basically a super plasma cannon.
Yep.
His specialty thing, though, is if he stands still, he's +1 to hit, so he goes from 4s to 3s, and he can shoot twice. That's 12 shots.
It's devastating for... How many points is he?
175.
For 175...
170?
175 or 170 points, you're getting, usually, 12 shots, 12 plasma shots.
It gets better.
Frightening, yeah.
You can pay 2 command points for the Monstrous Creature Stratagem, which is Pathogenic Slime.
Yep.
Bump that up to damage 3.
Space Marines will die. Everything.
Aggressors, all Gravis armor.
Yep.
Unless you're putting saves on them for something. I guess you got Feel No Pains. Everyone's got a Primaris Apothecary these days, giving them Feel No Pain saves.
Even with that, this is essentially the Tyranid, along with the Hive Guard, but even more so, this is the Tyranid.
Anti-everything.
Anti-heavy things.
Yeah.
It's what you need to quickly destroy higher toughness.
The only downside really they even have stratagem in Psychic Awakening, not that they needed it, but you can pay 1 command point and they count as if they stood still, even if they moved. So, I mean, if you take 2 or 3 of them, you can basically move 1 a turn without taking a penalty to doing it.
Okay.
They're so good. There is no downside to them.
No.
The only real downside is that they need synapse.
And the movement thing.
And the movement thing isn't great, but
their range is 36. So the movement on the 9th edition boards is really not even an issue.
Yeah,
like it's almost never an issue.
No, the only thing would be line of sight.
Yeah.
You could hide 1 outside of line of sight.
Right.
And then the next turn or your turn, move them out, and yeah.
But that's also why Hive Guard exists.
Yeah.
You know?
Even if you do move him, I mean, it's not nearly as good. You're hitting on 4s. You're not re-rolling.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I was gonna say it's not that bad, but it's pretty bad.
It is.
Significantly worse.
It makes them not be the top of S tier.
They would be down in like C tier if that wasn't the case.
Right.
Yeah. Solid
Extremely
unit.
solid unit.
All right, now we have his older brother, the Tyrannofex.
They're also toughness 8.
Yep.
It has 2 more wounds.
14 wounds.
So it's thicker.
It is the
if you
thicker
can say
boy.
it like that. But the gun is guns.
There's 3 options. Yeah. So you've got the worst one. Maybe you can make it work. I don't know how. You have the Flesh Borer Hive, which is basically 20.
I've never even seen this before.
No, it's the model what I use for my Hive Tyrant for his Twin Link Devourer, those pincer arm things.
Sure.
So that's what they are. It's 20 shots. It's 20 strength 5 Flesh Borer shots.
So it's 1 strength more than a gaunt shot. So you're basically getting...
You're getting 20 gaunts.
At an 18-inch range... Yeah, that's not very good.
Now,
it's not that
he is also a weapon beast. So if he stands still, he can shoot twice. So it's 40 shots.
18-inch range is decent with that rule.
You could pay 2 command points to make him damage 2.
Is it worth it, though?
I don't think so. Unless...
Because it has no AP with that gun. With that gun... I don't know.
It would be situationally, if you had a big group of intercessors, like 10 assault intercessors bearing down on him, and they were in the open, no cover, no other saves, I would pay the 2 command points to try and plink off.
Yeah.
But
is that worth it, though?
No.
In general?
No, not at all. I don't think so.
It's next. Let's do second best gun.
This one goes back and forth. Okay. I think the second best gun is the Rupture Cannon. This is the big
shot.
The big anti-tank shot.
Sure.
48 inches, 3 shots base, 6 if you stand still. He's strength 10, AP minus 3, D6 damage. There are 2 reasons I don't like this gun.
Yeah.
1, D6 damage is swingy.
Super swingy.
The second one, he's only ballistic skill 4+, and if he is bracketed at all, it's 5+. He doesn't get the bonuses like the Exocrine is standing still for +1 to hit. So
you'd essentially, if you wanted to make the Rupture Cannon work, you would need to use the... I keep forgetting the name.
The Chronos detachment?
The Chronos detachment and the Warlord trait replacement that makes him not bracket as much.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, those 2 are necessary if you're bringing Rupture Cannons,
The question is if that's worth it.
It's also the most expensive gun. It puts him closer to 200 points with that gun. It's like 185, 190.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
I don't think so.
The good gun.
The
Actually,
one I
incredible
like,
gun.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Is the acid spray.
It's devastating to Space Marines.
It's so it's 18 inches again. It's 2d6 shots. It's a flamer.
2d6.
2d6. So if you stand still, it's 4d6.
Oof.
Not 46. 4d6.
Yeah.
It's a little swingy with the amount of shots, but you can theoretically you can command point reroll 1 set of the dice.
Yeah.
So you can get them up there.
Yeah.
good and bad with this. The bad is that the strength of the gun is tied to the strength of the Tyrannofex, so it goes from 7, 6 to 5. This isn't really your anti-tank weapon, although if you are at strength 7, it can do plenty of damage to a Rhino, what are some of the toughness 7 vehicles? Any of the Necron vehicles, it would shred.
Necron vehicles definitely would shred. Any Imperium vehicle that isn't toughness 8.
Yeah.
It would
all
destroy.
the Rhino chassis.
Yeah, essentially.
Even actually, I've used this against Lehman Russes before, and they don't have invulns, and if they fail their saves, it's doing a lot of damage.
Yeah, it's D3 damage.
And if you want to pay 2 command points, this is the one place where I think it's worth it, putting pathogenic slime, so it's D3 plus 1. So you're getting up to 4 damage a shot. And when there are 2d6 of them, or 4d6 of them, it's a flamer, so you ignore the hitting problem with the Tyrannofex there.
Yes.
So you're just going straight to wound rolls.
I think that's important to say.
That is huge to say, because it's a flamer that you are ignoring this horrible ballistic skill.
You're bypassing the bad ballistic skill.
It's one less roll you have to go through.
Yep.
So you're basically, it's just 46 on 3s or 4s.
Yep. And it's D3, you could, if you get a good roll, on those, essentially what could be 4 D6 shots.
Yeah.
Think about what D3 damage could do.
It can do a lot.
To a tank.
I would like to see this in the next Codex go to a flat 2 damage as well.
Yeah.
It's just because you can have some bad luck where you're going against intercessors where you just keep rolling 1s.
Yeah.
You actually, if you look, I don't know what time this will be posted, but the game against Iron Warriors, our first battle report we have on the channel, I played Sam and his Iron Warriors, and this thing struggled to kill Tactical Marines only because I kept on rolling 1s for my damage. Oof. And he's playing Iron Warriors, but he's playing them as Iron Hands. He kept on making his 6-up saves. His 6-up feel no pains. He rolled 4 of them in a row. And
really?
Yeah, it took me the entire game for this Tyrannofex to kill 10 Tactical Marines because of how tanky he was. But
so
this spear does.
It can
be swingy.
It can go either way, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's only AP -1.
Sure. So those are all the weapons. Is there anything else we missed? Because this is an important one.
He's got powerful limbs. They're
like everything else. All the big guys.
Big, meaty claws.
So basically he has a kind of bad gun, a decent gun, and a pretty good gun. So
I'd stick him in B tier, and I would stick him up if you're using the acid spray. I
agree with you, actually.
I would put him not as good as Gene Stealers.
I agree, because if you don't have a lot of firepower, something with toughness 8 that can deal a lot of damage like this can actually be very, very difficult to take down.
If you give them the 5-up invuln, if you can even give them feel no pain.
Even without the 5-up invuln, 14 wounds at toughness 8 is really quite tough to take down.
Yeah, so that's
mid B tier.
Yeah, I like them. I like them, but they're B tier.
Yep.
All right, next we go on to the Biovore.
Yeah.
The Biovore is an interesting little fella. I would almost put him...
He's a difficult one to place, I would say.
Because, okay, we'll put him back at him here.
Yeah,
let's think about this. Okay. So the Biovore he's weird because you want him to miss.
Yeah.
You want him out of synapse.
Pretty much the only unit in the whole game.
Yeah, you want to miss.
Yeah.
You want him out of synapse range, so he's hitting on 5s if he's not shooting the closest thing.
Yep.
And you want him to spawn spore mines. So the spore mines...
How does he spawn spore mines?
Whenever the Biovore misses, you can place a spore mine that is anywhere within 6 inches of the target and no more than 3 inches from any other enemy model. So it's kind of restrictive, but it's not that bad when you actually measure it out.
Yep.
So you can take a group of 3 of these, and you want to lob them up at your opponent's front line. You want them to miss, and then you want to put the spore mines right in front of them.
Yep.
So when it comes to the movement phase, you can't move past
because
the spore
you have
mines.
to move before you can attack them in any way. It's even before the psychic phase.
Yes. So the only chance that this could go wrong is if your opponent has characters for Lookout Sir, or not Lookout Sir, Heroic Intervention.
Oh.
Space Wolves and Salamanders have ways to get more than 3-inch.
It's pretty specific.
It's specific.
Thing, though, yeah. In general, it
shouldn't matter.
It blocks you. You just can't move past them.
So they don't do, I mean, and if they do hit, you can do, 1 to D3 mortal wounds to your enemy per shot, which isn't spectacular, but mortal wounds are great because, you ignore the invuln saves.
Sprinkling some potential wounds on
them. So it's tough to rank them because as a Biovore itself, it doesn't do anything. But the combination of a Biovore and a Spore Mine can be so annoying to some armies that I would stick them in like a...
How many points are there?
50 points a model.
I would say it's one of the better point fillers.
It also does ignore line of sight.
It's artillery, basically.
Well, let me be sure here. Yes, it can. I just want to make sure I wasn't just talking. I would put him in the B tier.
I think because I think it's better against elite armies, obviously, because you are increasing your maximum damage potential. Because if you break off mortal wounds from, say you're playing against Custodes, if you just chip away a wound or two a turn, it is probably worth the 50 points.
Yeah, absolutely.
It can be worth it, so it can go back and forth.
Yeah, we'll stick him in B tier. He's average, but he's got his plays.
Yeah.
All right. Now we have Mr. Tentacles. It's Mr. Squiggles, the Toxicrin.
Yeah.
I don't know where I want him.
It's another weird one.
So he's got some good and bad. Let's
give the pros first.
So his pros is he's got a lot of attacks.
Yeah.
And he's fast. He's got an 8-inch move.
6 attacks to start.
6 attacks to start, and you can make it slightly better. His weapon skill, I do not get why they did this. His weapon skill degrades, his strength and his attack. Those are the 3 most important things with this Toxic.
The only 3 things that matter, basically, besides movement.
It couldn't have been his movement. It could have been his, I don't know.
Yeah.
Sure, the attacks, I get it. But, man, all 3 of them is really, that's the biggest downside to him.
It's pretty much the worst possible case for his degradation.
Yeah, absolutely. So, he's got some shooting. He's got ranged with his Toxic Lashes. He's got his Choking Spores. Don't count on him doing anything. His close combat potential is where it's at. He has 6 attacks at at strength user, so 7, 6, 5. AP minus 2 D3 damage. And because he's a poisonous beast or whatever, he can automatically reroll his failed wound rolls.
Sure.
So that's great. I like to pair this with the adaptive physiology of, oh crap, what is it called?
What does it do?
It's the one where he gets +1 strength, +1 damage, plus all of those things.
Sure.
What is it called? I don't know. Murderous Size. There we go. Oh, so I like to stick that on him and just go full offensive on him.
Yeah.
One trick that Psychic Awakening brought to the Toxicrin is that he now has a stratagem where if he's locked in combat and the opponent tries to fall back, you can spend 1 command point, and on a 2+, that unit can't fall back.
So you essentially grab him,
hold him in.
Yeah.
It's in 9th edition. It got okay because you can't re-roll that anymore.
Yeah.
So you get in those cases where you spend the command point and it does absolutely nothing.
Right.
Which are some feels bad moments.
Right. So I guess pros is that he is a beast in close combat if he's in his highest bracket. Cons, like many of the other Tyranid close combat monstrous creatures, it can be difficult to get him there.
He can be tricky to get him there.
7 with a 3-up save, so basic.
Also, his model takes up the entire board. It's huge. Mine's magnetized, so I just take the arms off most of the time.
And I feel like most people who are not playing in a tournament would agree with that because it's just ridiculous.
I don't even know what the rules are for that in a tournament. Can I just take his arms off?
Yeah,
I've never done it.
You'd have to ask.
I'd have to ask. You have to ask your TO.
Yeah.
About that. But
that being said,
I love him. He does. He
Yeah.
can do so much damage.
He has a lot of damage potential, but he also has potential to die immediately.
Die immediately. No
Yeah.
invuln save like most monsters.
Yep.
But yeah, putting murder size on him. AP -3, D3 +1 damage, strength 8 to start.
Yeah.
I
Very high
mean,
potential.
he goes after those elite infantry, the Gravis ones. He's great at killing the Gravis ones now.
Yep.
But
That being said, where do you think?
I
Definitely not A.
Oh no, he's not an A. I would put him. He's only what is he 150 points?
Is he really?
Yeah,
That's not bad.
He used to be cheaper. He used to be 125, which
Oh.
was or 135. I loved him then.
If he was 135, I might say low A,
I might
that's
too.
cheap.
That's dirt cheap.
but middle of B.
I would put him better than a Turvagon.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I'd put him right there.
I'm cool with that.
Again, we want B to kind of be of our average tiers,
Yes,
so
definitely.
so it makes sense he's there.
Okay. Cool.
Carnifexes. So in this video, so there are Screamer Killer Carnifexes, there are basic Carnifexes, there are Thornback Carnifexes, and in Forge World there are Stone Crusher Carnifexes.
Maybe let's just do.
We're gonna clump them all into one,
Sure.
for the most part. They're all relatively the same.
You could briefly mention the.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about it. So
differences, yeah.
Stone Crushers are your anti-tank ones.
Should we go over basic though?
Oh,
What's the basic Carnifex do?
so basic Carnifex is 7-inch movement, weapon skill, ballistic skill 4, strength 6, toughness 7, 8 wounds, 4 attacks, leadership 6, and a 3-up save.
So while they start at strength 6, the basic ones are actually strength 9.
No, they're strength 6 unless you give them crushing claws.
Oh.
This is the part that I hate the most about Carnifexes,
Oh,
is that
okay.
you give them dual scything talons to maximize their close combat potential, because now you're hitting on 4s if you charge 3s, rerolling 1s, but you're only strength 6. You go up against a Rhino and you struggle to kill the thing.
So basically, you want to give regular ones crushing claws.
Well, if you want them to do, high.
Because they're supposed to be, at least within the lore, they're supposed to be the battering. I mean,
they're supposed to be your battering
They
rams.
have rules with the word battering ram in them, you know?
But they don't hit very hard.
Sure.
And they die so easy. You can spend so many points on Carnifexes. They start, I think, at around 95 points a model.
Which is fine.
Which is fine, but if you start spending points like crazy. You can give them, what big one, if you want to make a shooty one, you can give enhanced senses to give them a 3+ ballistic skill. That's great.
Can be good.
That is great.
Yeah.
And then if you want to make them survival, you can give them Spore Cysts, which just have a built-in -1 to hit this Carnifex.
To shoot in shooting.
In shooting.
Yeah.
But that's 15 points to do that. 10? Shoot, I should have these. 10 points, 15 points to do that.
Either way,
It adds a lot of points to them.
it increases it a lot.
I have not had a lot of success with Carnifexes.
In 9th, we should say.
Not even in 8th. They have some role, but I just don't feel like they pull their weight.
Yeah.
It's people who've been playing Tyranids for a while know Tyranids haven't been or Carnifexes haven't been able to pull their weight ever. This is the best I think they've been.
Really?
Since 4th edition, from what I've heard. I started in 5th.
We didn't even play 4th edition.
But I think they're at their best right now.
Huh.
I don't know. The only thing I think would change is make them strength 7. That's it.
Base.
Strength 7 base, so your scything talons are now being able to hurt a tank.
Yeah, pop some rhinos. Damage some rhinos at least.
I would love that. Shooting wise, there's a couple plays. You can make a shooty Carnifex, which oddly enough is almost better than a close combat one.
Which is weird.
So you can give them a Venom Cannon, and then you can give them some Death Spitters.
Yeah.
Or Devourers, sorry. So the Devourers, you give them that's 12 shots from those alone.
Sure.
And then the Venom Cannon is D3, Strength 9, AP -2, Damage 3.
Which is good.
Guns.
I mean,
And they're hitting on 3s. That Venom Cannon on the Carnifex is just as good as the Venom Cannon on your heavy Venom Cannon on your Hive Tyrant.
But you would need to use it with, what's the Hive Fleet, the shooty?
If you used it with Chronos, it'd be even better.
Yeah.
I mean, they're hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s now if they stand still. But, and then you can do the mix and match now in 9th edition. You can shoot in close combat. you can see some argument to take like Crushing Claws for the strength, and you could take, Devourers for some close combat shooting. If you get tied in, you can shoot those guns.
Sure.
But that's a lot of points. That starts adding up.
So in general, Carnifexes, I mean, do we want to go over all the specific types?
We'll give you a brief rundown. Screamer Killers, only Scything Talons, and then they have a Bioplasma shooting attack.
Okay.
Nah. Great for anti-infantry, but if they touch a tank, no.
Okay.
Thornbacks, they're shooty boys, so they're good anti-infantry shooting. They've got the Stranglethorn Cannon, and then they have Scything Talons. So, or Slimer Maggots, I should say.
Okay.
Fine, whatever. And then Stone Crushers we didn't put in here, but they are your great anti-tank ones. They all have the fixed one. They're all kind of
fixed what?
Fixed like target, I should say.
Okay.
But I think the best success is to bring bare bones basic Carnifexes and just run them up the board and force your opponent to deal with it.
Sure.
But they, at 8 wounds, toughness 7, 3-up save, they die to power weapons relatively quick.
Probably some better things.
Yeah, so sadly, we're going to put this Carnifex, I'm going to put him down in...
Not D.
No, he's not D tier.
Yeah.
He's not D tier, but I'm going to put him in C tier. Now, if you pair him with Old One Eye, seeing Old One Eye here, they can get better.
Better. Not good, but better.
I'm put Carnifex C. It hurts. I got 6 of them.
It's unfortunate. Yeah, I agree with you.
All right, so we've gone through all the Carnifexes, blah, 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 blah. Moloch. Okay, I like the Moloch.
It's got basically a gimmick.
He's got his Terror from the Deep gimmick, where he can pop up, and the unique thing about him is he can pop up within 2 inches of an enemy.
Right.
Which you could look at it as he can help you with engage in all fronts from that aspect.
But really, it's to...
What it does mortal wounds. So the Terror of the Deep, you roll on a 1, nothing happens. So for every unit, I should start over. When he deep strikes, you pick every unit that is within 2 inches of him. On a 2+, 2 to 3, they take a mortal wound. On a 4 to 5, they take D3 mortal wounds. And on a 6, they take a flat 3 mortal wounds. There is a 1 command point stratagem to add 2 to that result. So now...
There is?
Yeah. It's 1 command point. It works, so it can do some mortal wounds. If your opponent... The problem is, if your opponent sees a Moloch, he's not going to leave a gap big enough. At best, you're going to hit 2 units.
Right.
They're 125 points.
And you're averaging 1 to 2.5-ish, like, wounds.
Mortal wounds, I'd say you're going to get... Yeah, you're going to get
2,
2, 3 mortal wounds on a unit.
Probably averaging
2 mortal wounds on a unit, yeah. But then the opponent just turns around and kills them. And
it's very easy to kill, and it's difficult to know...
if
it's
they're going to do anything.
know if it's worth it.
Yeah.
For the points,
But in certain cases, they have their niche. The engage in all fronts point.
True.
And the mortal wounds, you can save them till later in the game, turn 3, and you've got some stuff that are pretty low wounded.
Yeah.
And maybe he's a little more scattered about, so he's not all clumped up. He maybe forgets a little bit about him.
And you do need to, you have to deal with it, or it will tie you up.
It'll tie you up. It won't.
It has 12 wounds, It's it's not something you can just let stay.
It's only toughness 6.
Plus it can go back underground?
It can. So, if for some reason you can't kill this thing, and you don't get him in close combat, he can go back underground and then do it again in another turn.
Which is where it becomes actually pretty good.
It could be good.
If that can happen.
But the odds of someone not killing this thing and leaving him out of close combat are slim to none.
Right.
I don't think I've ever seen it, but...
Right.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put him in a low C tier.
Yep. I'd say better than Spores.
Yeah.
I would say better than Spore.
Better than Spore Mines?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to put them there.
Probably not better than Gargoyles, though.
They're just, yeah. Sadly.
And his better older brother?
So we have Trigon and Trigon Prime. And here...
Maybe not better.
So Trigon Prime, we'll put him as 1.
Yeah.
Basically, you pay an extra 20 points or 25 points, and the Trigon Prime has Synapse, and he has better shooting and better leadership. That's about it for an extra 25 points.
And you personally always want to take the Prime?
I like to take the Prime because he's a Synapse bubble. You could pay an adaptive physiology to give Synapse to a regular Trigon.
Yeah.
But they're much better adaptive physiologies.
Yes.
The Prime also can take artifacts.
Oh, yeah.
So he's like, he's a character. So
the regular one is not a character.
Regular one's not a character. He's a character, so he can take the artifacts. If your opponent takes Assassinate, then he could give up points there, which is something that I guess I didn't think about too much. You don't think about that much, but it is a flaw.
The negative of being a Prime is the Assassinate.
Where
the positives outweigh
the positives.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the positives of it.
Think so.
I think so. You can deep strike, or not, or you can just move them up the board 9 inches. I like to deep strike them, and then either use Swarm Lord to pair him in, or to pull him in, or you give him Adrenal Glands, and then he only needs an 8-inch charge out of reserve.
True.
He has a Subterranean Assault rule, which means he can bring a unit, a troop choice unit, with him.
Yeah.
In deep strike.
Can be useful.
I would only really do this with Devil Guns. I would bring a unit of 15 to 20. Bringing 20 gets tricky because the footprint is so big for the Trigon and all of those Gaunts.
Yeah.
It becomes an issue because you want that Trigon still to be able to charge. You don't want him sitting there for a turn. Which is why you do it with Swarmy, you don't have to worry as much. But a Trigon is so close to being amazing in close combat. Trigon Prime, his damage output. He has 6 attacks, 7 with the 2 sets of Scything Talons at Strength 7, AP -3, D6 damage. You give him Murder Size, which I love to do. He's now Strength 8. He's now wounding most vehicles on 3s. AP -4, so none of them are getting a normal armor save.
Which is probably how you want to use it, right?
I think so. Murders, really, with these adaptive physiologies, you've got 2 key units you want to just make that much better.
Yep.
And if you bring a Trigon Prime, it's going to be one of those.
Yeah.
Giving him Toxin Stacks and Murder Size makes his D6 damage a little less swingy because now it's D6 +1 or D6 +2 if you roll a 6 to wound, which you can't count on, but...
I mean, he has 7 attacks, though.
7 attacks.
So he'll probably get
at
least 1.
And if you want, you can spend the 1 command point that all Tyranid monsters have access to, Vicious Appetite, so you reroll failed wound rolls.
Yeah.
So if you've got a vehicle you really got to kill, like if you're going up against a knight, I would use that every time. So you're Strength 8, you're wounding the knight on 4s, you're hitting the knight on 3s, rerolling 1, wounding on 4s, rerolling. The knight is not going to get an invuln save.
Right. You have a lot of tools to make the Trigon Prime useful. Yeah.
The biggest thing, the only thing I'd like to see in a change is changing that D6 damage to D3 +3.
Yep. And Toughness 6 is his weak point.
It's his weak point. Toughness 6.
Everything needs.
3-up save. 2 Melt the Guns are going to just trounce him pretty much, unfortunately. But, Trigon, much of the same way.
He's solid. He's a good guy,
I'm going to put him, I think, after the Tyranno effects.
I think so. I think he's better than the Toxicrin in general.
Yeah.
He can deal more consistent damage? Does that seem right?
He has more damage potential.
Higher damage.
Yeah. The Toxicrin's a little more consistent, but it's more consistently lower.
Yeah, right.
Where he's D3 +1 versus D6 +1.
Yep.
Or 2.
Okay.
And then, the Trigon has access to Adrenal Glands and Toxin Sacks and relics.
Yeah.
A relic. We didn't talk about that. So one relic that you can do is put Chameleonic mutation on him, which is -1 to hit in the shooting phase. So if you move him up the board, you could put that on him.
It's a great relic. Yeah.
You could also give him, if you're playing more for fun, you can give him the Yumgarl factor.
Oh, yeah.
Which at every fight phase, you roll a D3, you either get +1 strength, toughness, or attack.
Which could, I mean, obviously it's not competitive it's random,
yeah.
but it could make him just extremely
Strength
ridiculous.
9, you could have 9 attacks, you could be toughness 7.
Or have 8 attacks.
9 attacks.
9 attacks.
With murderous size.
Oh, right.
So, 9 attacks, hitting on 3s, you're rolling 1s, you'd probably get 7 or 8 of them through. Going up against a knight, wounding on 4s, so say you get 8 of them through, that's 4. You'd get 6, so you have 6d6 plus a flat 6 damage.
Oof, that's pretty good.
Yeah, you could probably kill knights. We should do some little battles with those.
Pretty close,
see what they can do.
We'll do some mini battles in the future. Coming soon.
All right. Final stretch here. We have the miscellaneous units of the Tyranids before we hop into the Forge World.
Yep.
So starting off, we have the Tyrannocyte, our overpriced drop pod of the Tyranid army.
Yep.
It is loaded with guns that normally don't do a whole lot.
Transport capacity.
Transport capacity is 1 monster of 14 wounds or less.
So most monsters.
Yeah, I think all non-Forge World monsters fit into that.
Yeah, seems right.
And then, or 20 infantry models. And infantry models is really interesting because a Tyranid warrior is 1 infantry model. So theoretically, you could fit 2 squads of 9 warriors inside of this pod.
Whoa.
And plop them in. Now, I haven't actually tried this, but I don't think you can actually fit that many warriors around the pod.
Yeah.
And you can stick a prime in there as well.
True.
2 max squads, warriors, and a prime.
There's fun things you could do with the Tyrannocyte.
Yeah, don't bring them to tournament, but by all means, I have 2 of them. They're fun to bring around, just not.
They used to be very good. Now they are meh.
I would put them at a bottom of C tier.
Yep.
We're in full screen mode.
They don't really help you much.
Especially because now the board size is so much smaller.
Yeah, it actually is.
That it's harder to deep
difference.
strike, especially deep striking with huge footprints.
Which this is large.
Yeah.
It's big.
Well, okay, so that's that.
Easy to go over.
Next one is the Harpy, the shooty version of our flyer. It can carry 2 heavy venom cannons, 2 stranglethorn cannons, or 2 stranglethorn cannons, and it can drop spore mine bombs.
What is the Harpy supposed to do?
It's supposed
I think that's a good question.
It's supposed to just be a anti-infantry flyer.
Anti-infantry flyer. Okay.
Yeah. So or tank. I guess you can make it tank, but it's an air-to-ground unit.
Right.
And a bomber all in one.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's really great. So it's a flyer, but it's not an aircraft. So it's not -1 to hit.
Oh.
It doesn't have that 60-inch movement. It's only got a 30-inch movement, and its ballistic skill and weapon skill are only 4.
We should say though, 30 inches on these new the 9th edition boards are decent, but
it gets you places. You can't necessarily bomb a target turn 1.
Right.
But you can. I just don't like them. They have another ability. Their Sonic Screech, which units in close combat on the turn that they are charged with, enemy units have to fight last. It's a very neat ability.
It's not always going to be the most beneficial.
The only way I would see this work is if you use that and tie it in with something else that's charging. So maybe you have like your Gene Stealers charge in.
Yeah.
And then you charge the Harpy in. So then that unit that the Gene Stealers have charged have to fight last. And you can go ahead and maybe you have more chargers. It can theoretically negate someone's interrupt, essentially.
Yeah.
But
I wonder if it's worth the points value that it's worth compared to taking another unit that you're using already.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And it's 165 points. I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, what's the save?
4-up save as well, and it's only toughness 6.
Ugh.
Something with an autocannon. Oh, it's very specific, but the anti-air Skitari or AdMech unit.
Yeah.
That thing will shred this in 1 turn.
In 1 turn.
No problem.
Yeah, like that single gun. It's technically 1 gun.
It's technically 1 gun with 3 different shots.
So 1 gun can,
It's now that my opinion, that's the best anti-air gun in the game.
Right. So we're comparing it against that, but
I don't like it. So I'm gonna put him, Shooty Boy. I'm gonna put him into a D tier.
Probably better than the characters though. Top of D tier.
Keep the Prime. Okay. Prime's still where he is because he can benefit other units.
Yeah.
Whereas
that's true. The Ravener can.
Well, the Ravener can, but the Warriors are better than the Ravener.
Okay.
I put him there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Similarly, I'm gonna put the Hive Crone with him as well.
The difference between these two is
this is the anti-flyer flyer.
Anti-flyer flyer, and the other one is anti-tank / infantry.
Flyer, yeah.
Yeah.
So this one it has a flamer. It's an 8-inch range flamer.
It's also called the Drool Cannon, so that's cool.
Yeah. It's same weapon skill, bliss skill 4+, strength, toughness 6, 12 wounds, 3 attacks. It has its little tentaclid missiles, which can target units that fly. You can reroll hit rolls against flyers with it, and it does on a 4+ a mortal wound. On a 4+, it does 1 mortal wound. It's not great.
It's not great. No.
Its other attacks, it's got its Scything Wings, which are strength users, so only 6, AP -2, D3 damage.
Yeah.
No.
Essentially, it's where it is, like right behind the Hive Crone, right behind the Harpy, because I mean flyers are less common.
You don't see flyers anymore, so why would you bring an anti-flyer?
Right.
If you don't.
If you really feel like you want to bring a Tyranid flying unit, first of all, take the flyer in.
Take the flyer in.
And then second, if you don't want that, take the Harpy, I guess.
Or I would take, we'll get to him soon.
Yeah.
The Harridan.
Oh yeah.
That is cool, but we'll get to him in a little bit.
Yeah, Forge World.
All right, so let's move on to the Sporosis.
The final thing of the official Tyranid Codex.
This is the formation before everyone else had formations.
Oh yeah.
Sure. Or not formations, fortifications.
Yeah.
Every army's getting one. Oh no, Dark Eldar didn't get one in their new codex.
They didn't get any? Well, that makes sense for Dark Eldar, though.
That's true. They don't really do fortification things.
Nope.
But Space Marines, Necrons, and Death Guard all got one.
Yep.
Tyranids already had one. We had a Spore Mine Cannon.
It's like a Tyrannocyte that is stuck in the ground.
Yeah, it's
basically.
The top half of Tyrannocyte.
Yeah.
And it shoots Spore Mines out.
Yep.
So you can choose to spawn a unit of 3 Spore Mines or one of the big Muclids.
Yep.
And it launches them out every turn.
It's like a catapult, kind of?
Sure.
Like a Tyranid catapult.
They do boost, they don't give out synapse, but they boost the synapse range. It's like a little synapse beacon. You can deploy them outside of your deployment zone. But by technical rules, in 9th edition, you cannot deploy fortifications within 3 inches of a terrain feature.
Oof.
I don't like that rule, and I know some places or some communities have FAQ'd that, or house ruled that, I should say, because you want to play with dense boards. If you play with dense boards, you can't put your fortifications anywhere that are not 3 inches, because especially this one, it's a big base. I think it's on like 100.
At least it's not going to be beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on like 100mm base.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They're not
almost good. Never used, I would say.
I've never used one. I've seen them used sometimes. They used to be good back in 7th.
But that was abusing them.
That was abusing them. They were used for move blocking, and there was a rule you could put one of these in a Tyrannocyte.
What? So
you drop the Tyrannocyte, and then you would stick the Sporocyst out next to it.
It's ridiculous. Makes no sense.
Makes no sense. Yeah. But I would put these.
So probably D.
I would actually rate these as
the worst thing so far. Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty bad.
It's a little better than the Mucilid though.
But barely.
Yeah.
Only because it can launch out multiple of these.
True.
Yeah.
True. That's okay. Okay.
All right. That's it for the Codex.
We're done with the Codex.
Codex Tyranids, but we have a little bit more in the Forge World book. We are going to start HQ-wise. We have the Maelstrom. I like the Maelstrom a lot because he got some buffs in the new Codex, or the new Forge World Index, I should say. His bubble went from 3 inches to 6 inches.
Yep.
So now it is...
Which is extremely significant.
Significantly better.
Double.
He gives off the same bubble the Venom Thropes do. It does not stack with the Venom Thropes, of course. Yep. Actually, it doesn't because there's a specific rule that says it cannot stack with Venom Thropes. So even if it's like -1, and then like +1 to hit, it doesn't work that way. It specifically says they cannot stack. Unless it's FAQ'd, but I never found it looking at it.
That's interesting.
So you either take this one or you take the Venom Thropes.
And what else does he do besides that? Is that it?
That's about it. He's a character, less than 10 wounds. So you can hide him amongst your gaunts.
Cool.
And he can't be targeted.
Cool.
He has very little combat potential.
Yeah.
He has a bunch of wounds, toughness 5.
Relatively cheap.
He went up. He's about 135 points now.
Oh.
So he's expensive.
Not cheap, yeah.
But he's Synapse Bubble. I would put him in the A tier right here, I think.
Okay.
Between the Hive Tyrant and the Hormagaunts. I think he is in more games than not. He's better than
because he can hide.
Because he can hide amongst your units. But
and he's cheaper than a squad of 3 Venom Thropes.
No, he is more expensive than a squad of 3.
They're
100 points, 130. So you're basically paying for 4 Venom Thropes for him.
Okay.
Which you could look at doing, but
the targeting is big.
Yeah, the games where you have line of sight blocking, like huge line of sight blocking, those Venom Thropes are the more I think about this, the more I might want to move them down. I might put them
below Venom Thropes?
On par. I want to say these on par with Venom Thropes.
Kind of tied?
This has got me thinking here. This has got me thinking.
Okay.
So, it's quite a trade-off.
They have a similar benefit.
One or the other. The only other downside with the Maelstrom is that he takes up an HQ slot. And HQ slots for the Tyranids are, I would say, the most important. Most armies would say it, but I think you want...
Tyranids more, though.
You want 1 or 2 Hive Tyrants.
Yeah.
You want your Neurothropes. You want 1 or 2 of them.
You might often want the Swarm Lord.
You want the Swarm Lord, exactly. Yeah. So, and in a game, you're only going to get 3, maybe 5 HQs, but Tyranid HQs are expensive, so you really only want to stick with about 3 of them.
Yep. At most.
I'm going to put him right there in an A tier. Great utilization, but the trade-offs with the Venom Thropes there are pretty fair. We're going to one that I don't know a ton about. I do know the rules and how they work.
I don't know much either.
The Dimakaran here, or Dimakaran, however you want to call it. I like Dimakaran.
Sounds cool. He
is the monstrous creature lictor, essentially, is what he is. He's a huge lictor.
Okay.
He got some big buffs with Forge World, the new index.
Can he still jump?
He can still jump. He ignores the vertical height for his movement phase.
That's cool.
He's got a lot of attacks. He's kind of conflicted with his attacks because he's got his thorax thing that can like suck up a unit.
That's right.
But it goes after it can only do that to low toughness units. Like it's a toughness roll off.
Oh.
But his other attacks, his big dual scything talons or whatever, are anti-tank ones. So if you charge him in a tank, your little thorax thing isn't doing anything. And if you charge him into infantry,
his big
attacks are overkill.
Yeah.
So
wasted.
I feel he's a little conflicted.
Sure.
But I know they move fast. They have a built-in 5-up invuln, which is huge.
Huge for Tyranids.
They are 18 wounds, which means he can't hide behind normal line of sight blocking terrain.
It's a lot of wounds, though.
He has a lot of wounds.
Yeah.
He is toughness 7. I believe. So he's fine. I know a lot of people love him, and some people would swear by 2 or 3 of these things.
Wow.
I wish I had one just to play around with, but
Yeah.
I'm going to put him at a low A tier right now.
Seems fair.
But the only reason I'll put him higher is because I feel like he's a little conflicted with what his attacks can do.
You're not getting the full potential out of him usually.
But the built-in invuln and the ignoring vertical distance when he moves, he can sneak up on some people pretty quick.
It's a useful tool for the Tyranids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. You want to do the barbed or the scythe hero duel?
I'd say barbed first.
All right. So barbed hero duel here.
They're the same thing essentially, but close combat.
They're pretty close. The one trade-off is that the barbed hero duel actually has a 2-up armor save, whereas the other one has a 3-up.
Oh, okay.
His guns are so-so. Let me pull them up here just so we have them as reference. You guys can't see this, but we're going to have them here. The barbed hero duel is 275 points.
Oof. Okay.
He has a very nice anti-space marine gun, which is strength 8, AP -2, damage 2, and it's 12 shots.
Whoa.
He's hitting on 3s to start.
That's the one with the 2-up save.
He's a 2-up save.
It's pretty good.
So if you put him in that, he's not Lord of War anymore. This is something that's huge.
Okay.
The barbed and scythe hero duel are no longer Lords of War. So they are heavy support.
That is huge.
Lord of Wars kind of suck right now in 9th edition.
Yeah.
But we're gonna, So he's toughness 8, 2 wounds, toughness 8, 2 plus save, 18 wounds.
Okay.
He's very durable, no invuln save. So, but you can give him now the dermic symbiosis and those things. So you can give him a 5-up invuln save, doubling his wound counters for his wounds for bracket reasons.
Okay.
I like him a lot. I wish I had one to play with more.
Almost seems like A tier, but he is a lot of points.
He's a lot of points. And, or maybe, I think he's only hitting 4s. I think.
On 4s?
Yeah, I think he is.
High B tier.
He's high B tier. I would put him above a Tyrannofex, I think. He's more points. He's like 75,
Toughness.
80 points more.
8.
But, yeah, they're both T8. But he's got that 2-up save.
And way more than
and his
6
guns is much more consistent and much better against
Yeah.
Space Marines, which is pretty much the meta right now.
Okay, yeah.
So I'll put him there.
Sure.
We're back.
Scythe
Scythe
hero
hero duel. We just finished the barbed hero duel. Now we're going to do the scythe hero duel.
Okay.
So he is, 235 points, a lot less than the barbed hero duel. We slapped him in here. Where did we slap him in? We slapped him right here in front of the Daimakaran.
Yeah.
I think that's a good place for him.
Yeah.
I got his stats up here, so let's just... his scything talons are D3 plus 3 damage, which is awesome.
Yeah.
They're plus 2 strength, so he's strength 10.
That's what you want for Tyranid things.
Yeah, strength 10's a good spot. He's toughness 8, 18 wounds, so he can't hide.
But he's still tough enough.
Yeah. He's actually a relatively smaller model. I guess he's not a Lord of War, he's a heavy support. So you could actually hide him.
Yeah.
But if you see him, you can see him. His bioacid spray is 3d6, AP -2, 1 damage. So that's
pretty good.
I mean, if he gets tied up with, other chaff, gaunts, things like that,
He'll melt them.
he can melt them. He can shoot that in close combat. He can overwatch with that. If you want, you can spend 2 command points to make that damage too.
Sure.
That actually wouldn't be that bad against Space Marines.
Very beneficial.
And it's AP -2, so it's better than the Tyrannofex one.
Yeah.
Only damage 1 or 2, but against just, basic intercessors, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
The downside to him, no invuln save, but you can remedy that with dermic symbiosis to give him the 5-up invuln save.
Sure.
Which I think you want to do every time you bring one of these guys. Just to make it more survivable, because the way he brackets is not great. He brackets in weapon skill, he brackets in movement, and then he brackets in, I guess ballistic skill, but that doesn't matter because he has a flamer.
That's good though.
Yeah.
At least it's not all 3.
Yep, it's not all 3. Coming in with 7 attacks because he has 2 sets of the scything talons.
Sure. That being said, I think low A tier is fair for 235 points.
Yeah, it would be fun to have 2 of these, and I might be picking up 2 of them.
That'd be fun.
We'll see in the future.
Not against me, but against someone else.
Against someone else, yeah. Yeah, it'd be fun to. I think doing it like a Zerg rush with them. You have 2 of these. You just run up the board. Maybe put a Maelstrom to give them -1 to hit bubble, following them. Do a full Forge World theme.
That would be fun.
I think that's probably the best way to run them because you have to ignore them and they're fast. If you want, you could bring 1 and do the slingshot with Swarmy. I mean, you can move him roughly probably 8 inches, keep him within the 6 of the Swarm Lord, make him, and then move him there 12, and then he can charge. Yeah, I like him.
He's good.
All right, now for the 2 big boys.
Second last.
We have our true Lord of Wars for the Tyranids. We have the Harridan.
The Mega Ultra Gargoyle.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah,
you know?
he's a big gargoyle.
You gotta say both, yeah. Mega Ultra.
He has 18 wounds, which doesn't sound like a ton, but
sounds like quite a bit.
He has a lot of points. He's like 700 something.
Okay.
But the bio cannons he has, amazing. So he's got 2 of these. They are heavy 8. He doesn't care because he's a monster about the heavy part. Strength 10, AP -3, 3 damage.
Oof.
He's got 2 of them.
Oof.
So it's 16 shots.
Wow.
48-inch range.
I suppose he should have that though with 700 points.
I mean, gosh, he's a big boy.
Piece of pie.
He's
A whole pie.
His movement is 20 to 45 inches.
Great.
He got some huge love in this rule, and he is an actual flyer, unlike the rest of the Tyranid flying monsters. So he has a built-in -1 to hit.
Wow, that is huge.
At all times.
So massive.
Yeah. And another bonus with him that is a negative with our next big monster. But so the rule with monsters that are too big to fit in your deployment zone is they can't really do anything their first turn because they're technically using that turn to get onto the board, so they can't move. I think they can shoot, but he's a big boy. The Harridan base, because he's a flyer, he goes off of base size, is actually not that big.
So he can always fit.
So he can always fit on your deployment zone. Wow. Now, sure, he hangs off the table and everywhere, but he's a base. If you really want, you can also, he is our other dedicated transport. He can carry 20 gargoyles.
Yeah.
They're just sitting on his wings or whatever.
Which honestly, you should. If you're using
If you're using them, might as well go all out and bring the gargoyles.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. He doesn't have 18 wounds. He has 34 wounds.
Oh!
Just
kidding.
I was looking at his bracket. 18 plus wounds is his first bracket set.
That makes more sense.
Yes.
34 wounds for 700-ish points.
Yeah, he is quite a beastie boy.
Yeah. Any other significant things there to add to it?
Nope, I don't think there's anything more to...
He's your flying knight of the Tyranids.
Yeah, I think he's great because he's got a built-in -1.
Yeah,
because sure, he's a third of your army.
Yeah.
But those guns are going to kill a lot of things.
You gotta do something with
I
them.
believe, unless they've changed it, that these guys can take advantage of your high fleet detachments and your high fleet detachments and your psychic powers and everything like that. So if you really want, he could stand. No, he can't stand still unless you drop into. You could drop him in hover mode, and then he could reroll 1s to hit. You give him 6 up, feel no pain built in. I guess he's not a synapse creature, is he? Yeah, he's not a synapse creature, so you'd have to be within 6 inches of synapse to have 6 up, feel no pain. Okay. I don't know. I think he is a.
He's not completely overpowered. I think he is.
I think he is low A tier.
He's nerfed by being 700 points.
He is nerfed by 7 points.
You know what I mean?
But Yeah, 34 wounds though.
Good.
He does have gargantuan scything talons. So he can go into combat. Make him strength 10, AP -3, and a flat 6 damage.
Wow.
He can reroll ones to hit with them.
So he's just basically an absolute beast.
He has 5 attacks.
An absolute monster.
So he, if you're lucky, can one-shot a knight. Even if you miss one attack.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, even if you miss one attack, he can one-shot a knight.
Okay.
So
cool.
I like him at a low A spot.
Sure.
And now the final one of them all.
I don't know where you're gonna rank this.
The Hierophant. This guy is
enormous.
Yeah. He got a huge point decrease. He used to be 2,000 points or something like that.
Really?
You couldn't bring him in a game of 2,000 points because he was so big and he has so many points. He's now only 1,000 points.
Wow. Okay.
They really cut his points off, and they didn't really take that much away from him, if anything, because he wasn't all that effective.
Let's see the stat line.
He's coming in at also 34 wounds.
Okay.
He has a 2-up save.
Oof. Okay.
He is weapon skill, ballistic skill 3+. He has 6 attacks, leadership 9, not that that matters.
No.
Strength, toughness 8, 10 movement. He has a bioplasma torrent, which is a 12-inch flamer. Assault 2d6, strength 7, AP -3, 1 damage.
Solid.
So solid. He has the dire bio cannon as well. He has, which is the same thing, the heavy 8, 10, strength 10, AP -3, 3 damage. I believe he has 2 of these. Yes, he does. So same thing as the Hierophant, or the Hero Duel.
Yikes.
No. Harridan, gosh.
Harridan.
Yeah. So he's got 2 of those as well.
Okay.
He also has gargantuan scything talons for the strength 10, AP -3, flat 6 damage. And he's got a last little attack of Lash Whip Pods, which are strength 5, AP -1, 1 damage. And it says you just get 10 attacks with it, in addition to his other attacks. So, you know, he's...
How many points do you know?
1,000.
1,000. Oh, yeah, you said
So he's half your army. He is half your army at a 2,000 point game.
Strength, toughness 8, 2-up save, all of those weapons. Do we think it's worth it?
He's got some other abilities, which could make it worth it.
Yeah.
He's got Frenzied Metabolism. The first time this model is selected to shoot in each of your shooting phases, you can use this ability. If you do, it suffers D3 mortal wounds. But until the end of each phase, each time this model makes a ranged attack, add 1 to the wound roll.
Oh.
So now your flamers are wounding most things on 2s or 3s.
Sure.
Your biocannons are wounding most things on 2s.
Wow.
If they weren't already, you're it's only shooting phase. So, you know, it's something. For a couple wounds, maybe you take it.
Do we think it's worth 1,000 points?
Well,
It's tough to say.
It used to be 2,000, so...
Wow.
I
well,
think...
if you say it like that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, he can shoot in combat, so... He also has a 5-up invuln save. That's important. He's a built-in...
Harridan doesn't?
No. He has a built-in 5-up invuln.
That's huge.
Which does help a lot.
No, that's huge. That's, like, really important.
I mean...
I guess I would rank it around the Harridan, then.
With it, so the problem with him is that he's got a 10-inch move, but he can't move that first turn because his base is so big it doesn't fit in your deployment zone.
And you're not going to be moving the last turn, doesn't really matter. So
unless you go second, maybe.
But essentially you're moving 3 turns out of the 5 turns.
10 inches. So you go boom, and then you move up your table, and then...
He doesn't need to move that much, though.
But if you want to get into combat. Yeah, so you only really have to move him once and then charge him. And if you really want to forego all of his glorious shooting, you could slingshot him with Swarmlord. You can always slingshot him with Swarmlord.
I mean, that would be the ultimate tar pit, basically.
I wouldn't. I don't think his shooting just can be too valuable.
It's too powerful, yeah. I mean, he's 1,000 points. A lot of that is shooting.
A lot of it is shooting.
So do we rank him above or below the Harridan?
I think we put him below. I think the fact that first turn he can't really do anything.
Yeah.
I would put him...
Plus the points differential is pretty big.
I'm going to put him actually below one of these boys.
Okay.
Maybe...
Both of them.
Maybe even below these two. Only because you can get 3 of these for the price of 1 of them.
Yeah, which is probably more shooting.
And it's going to be more shooting.
It is more shooting.
It's going to be 18. It's going to be more wounds. Yeah. It's going to be an extra 33% more wounds. You can only get an invuln save on 2 of them.
Yeah. So if you're playing Apocalypse, use it.
Use one.
If you somehow have a model for it.
If you own one, use it.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to chill right there in average.
Yeah.
I think he's fun. I would love to have one.
Yeah.
He's expensive.
He'd be S+ tier if you were ranking fun.
Fun. Oh yeah. Yeah, he would be top of the list if this is pure fun.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. Someday I'll have to get one.
Yes.
I got to complete everything.
Yeah.
I'm only missing a few models here, and he's one of them.
Yeah, I think so.
So,
other than that, I think we've hit almost every major unit.
We skipped a few of the minor Forge World ones, like the Meiotic Spores and Sky Slashers, and
you can make your own decisions.
They'll probably, I would say they're all just a D tier.
Sure.
They're not great.
Not as good as other things, but.
But that's it. That is our tier ranking for pre-9th edition Codex. We might do another one of these once 9th edition comes out, our Codex, and we can play around with it a bit.
Yeah.
What do you know? Or let us know what you guys think. Did we nail it right on the head? Do you think Gene Stealers are still S tier? Do you think the Swarmlord is actually like a C tier unit?
Too expensive. Not
too
expensive enough.
Are you in love with the Red Terror and think he should be an S tier?
Okay.
Let us know your opinions, what you think we got wrong, what you liked, and like and subscribe, support the channel. There'll be some links in the description for a couple ways you can do that. But otherwise, have a great day and happy wargaming.
Thanks for watching.